السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. حينما كنتم أسعد الله صباحكم ونهاركم مساكم بخير في أرجاء معمور الكرة الأرضية. مجازف سبتلانتي مقدم برنامج Voice of Kush Wisdom لهذا الأسبوع المبارك. ونحن اليوم نستضيف سعادة الدكتور حكيم داريو، معروف بمواقفه السياسية ومواقفه الإقليمية بالإقليم الاستوائي الكبرى. وكذلك نحن مواصلين هذا اللقاء الخاص بعد فترة طويلة لارتباطنا بملفات كثيرة. نستضيف سعادة الدكتور حكيم داريو الليلة في Voice of Kush في لقاء خاص، لقاء مثمر. وجنوب السودان دائما ما زال في زلزال وعتون النار بانفلاتات أمنية، قتال دائري بين القبائل المختلفة، تخبط سياسي بين غدات الحركة الشعبية، وكذلك المؤتمر الوطني الذي دخل بأسنانه في هذه الأرض واقتبس اليابسة وكذلك الخضرة. فدكتور حكيم، نرحب بك الليلة في هذا اللقاء. وفي اللقاء ده قبل ما نمشي قدام نريد أن نوضح لك بأنه نحن موجودين الآن في الفيسبوك وكذلك في الكلاب هاوس وفي اليوتيوب بعد أخذ الإذن منك. في الميديا نحن بنستخدمه كإشارة قانونية لحفاظا لكل ما تقوله وما نقوله من مواد حقوق الطباعة والإعلام. ده الشيء الأول. ونحن نرحب بكل المستمعين الموجودين معنا في الكلاب هاوس وكذلك في الفيسبوك وفي اليوتيوب، والناس لاحقا سوف يستمعون لنا بما نقوله. وفي نهاية المطاف طبعا هي قضايا سياسية اجتماعية بحتة تمررها الفلسفة السياسية والفلسفة الإعلامية. في قد تكون هنالك بعض من الأخطاء، ودي قد تأتي مش من تلقاء نفوسنا لكن تأتي عفويا. دكتور حكيم، نرحب بك في هذا اللقاء ونديك الفرصة للكلمة لتحيي شعبك، تحيي أخوانك وأخواتك، أمهاتك، خيرانك، كل أبناء جنوب السودان اللي هيستمعوا لك في هذا اللقاء الخاص. وهتكون عندنا لقاء قد يصير ممكن لمدة ساعتين، وهنفتح الفرص لكل من أراد أن يسألك سؤالا، وقد يكون سؤالا بروفيشنال ومحترما، لأنه نحن في قوانيننا لا نترك ضيفنا لكي تقتبسه الذئاب. فنحن هنا للدفاع لكل ضيف يكون موجود لدينا، ومكانته دائما محترم، والاختلاف الرأي لا يفسد الود قضية، لكن عدم الأدب وعدم الاحترام لا يسي في منبرنا. فدكتور نديك فرصة، ونحن اللقاء ده هنتكلم فيه بلغتين، اللغة الإنجليزية واللغة العربية، هي اللغتين اللي نحن نستخدمه حتى مشاهديننا يكون عندهم المعلومية الكافية ويتعلموا معنا في اللقاء. فتفضل دكتور، أنا هفتح المايك، تقريبا المايك بتاعك مفتوح، ونرحب بك مجددا في Voice of Kush. تفضل.
شكرا مجازف. باين علي انه صوتك بقى ضعيف، لكن I hope my voice is clear. الصوت بتاعتي كويس؟
حاصل شنو؟ انقطع الخط منك لكن حسي كويس، ممكن تواصل. تفضل.
شكرا. اول حاجه عاوز ارحب بكل الضيوف وكل الشعب الجنوبي والشعب بتاع جنوب السودان في الدياسبورا. I just want to first greet all the viewers, Voice of Kush viewers, and I'm very pleased and honored to be hosted here by Voice of Kush Wisdom. It has been a while, but I really appreciate and welcome this opportunity to be hosted here by Voice of Kush Wisdom. And I'm very pleased as well to be interviewed on the back of important and critical issues that our country is going through at this point in time. ما كان في أي فرصة فانه احنا نتحاور ولكن يعني مش قصدا انه احنا ما عاوزين نجي هنا عشان نتحاور وندي الفرص لكل اطياف كل الطيف السياسي ما زي ما بيتقال، لكن غالبا بتلقانا انه احنا يعني انصرفنا لبعض القضايا لبعض الاولويات، وفي كان تضارب في بعض الاحيان في تواجد بتاعت الفرصه انه احنا نجي عشان نقدر نجلس ونتحاور، لانه القضايا بتاعت البلد بتاعتنا قضايا عويصه وقضايا مشتركه، واحنا كلنا بنحس بالتعب وبكل القضايا الاساسيه الحسي اللي احنا بنمر بها. وطبعا من القضايا الاساسيه دي هي قضيه بتاعت اللي هو احنا شايفينه قضيه بتاعت فشل، قضيه بتاعت تداعي بتاعت الدوله وانهيار بتاعت دوله جنوب السودان. ودي قضيه تحم كلنا، لانه المستقبل بتاعتنا المستقبل بتاعت الاجيال بتاعتنا كلها بتعتمد على اللي هو الليجاسي اللي احنا ممكن نقدر نضعه في الوقت الحالي عشان نقدر نبني مستقبل بيقدر يخلق مناخ للحفاظ على حقوق بتاعت الانسان وحقوق بتاعت الشعوب بتاعتنا في كل الشعوب بتاعتنا في جنوب السودان. فحسي احنا شايفين طبعا انه الفتره اللي فاتت دي كانت فتره كانت يطبق فيها ما يسمى بالاتفاقيه المنشطه تحت قياده الحكومه المنشطه بتاعت ارتي جون. فدي من ضمن الحاجات الحسي موجوده على الساحه السياسيه، واحنا عندنا الفرصه فاننا نتحاور حول الاوضاع التي تمر بها بلادنا والاوضاع الصعبه المواطنين بتاعتهم يمروا فيها. فانا بشكرك اخي مجازر لاتاحه الفرصه، ولا اود ان اطيل الحديث يعني كثير، لكن في سياق بتاعت الكلام وفي سياق بتاعت الحوار بتاعتنا ان شاء الله هنقدر نتطرق لقضايا هي قضايا بتكون في صميم الامور اللي بتهمنا كلنا كشعب بتاع جنوب السودان. وبشكركم لاتاحه الفرصه.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Hakim Dario, who's been with us this afternoon, this night, for special discussion together about our current affairs in South Sudan and also about the political crisis that where the country is. Before me to go more deep about our interview today, Dr. Hakim Dario, it seems we have already seen your either your interview or your article in Tamazit, and we go through it as a team, and we propose to come with some questions for you, and also to enlighten the South Sudanese about your own statement about that article or about those statements, what you share with Radio Tamazit, and we really hope also for you to share with us those kind of thought, so that also the South Sudanese, they should get that information and they can have also a chance to ask you questions. For which reasons, for example, Dr. Hakim mentioned those statements as a leader in South Sudan and its specific chairman of Equatorian Alliance as well, and also chairman of PDM. As if I make mistake, then you can correct me. That is what I think. And before to go on those kind of discussion tonight, Dr. Hakim, would like to go further about the situation in South Sudan right now. So, what Dr. Hakim Dario think about the security situation where we see that there is a lot of chaos taking place in South Sudan? As you like always to mention the region, Equatorian region, there is chaos, there is killings, there is a lot of atrocities, there is human rights violation, as well in Upper Nile, as well in Bahr al-Ghazal. As for your vision, we know that you always like to mention region. So a certain region, they should resolve their own problems and they should look forward how they can focus about their issues so that they can go forward. So Dr. Hakim Dario, why there is a chaos inside South Sudan right now, inside those regions that in Equatoria and also in Upper Nile as well in Bahr al-Ghazal. So can you enlighten us more on that kind of, so that we have that background, and that will lead us to the discussion of our interview tonight. Thank you.
Shukran, ya Akhi Mujazif. Thank you for asking the question. And I think from the outset, first I want to say that في ظاهرة بتاعت اللي هو الانهيار بتاعت الدولة. In other words, what we are facing in South Sudan today, we are faced with a collapsed state, a state that is fast collapsing. There's no functional state in South Sudan, and many people have referred to this as a failed state. Some of the first accounts that came into the public domain about the crisis that we're facing in Sudan, on the account of either international observers or even members of the regional community, for example, in IGAD countries, we have gone into a very devastating war in 2013, and as a result of that, we were not able to have a peaceful transition in the country towards a more democratic elections in the country. The main reason was that the political leaders in South Sudan, mainly the SPLM, have failed to address their internal differences in such a way as to, prevent sliding back into war in South Sudan. And that failure, our country, the whole country, has to pay for it. Whereas it started as a political conflict within the political bureau of the SPLM. We're also mindful of the fact that from 2005 to 2011, there was a transitional period, an interim period in which our people tolerated exegesis of corruption, manifestations of corruption in South Sudan, poor governance. But I think what united people at that time was that after the exercise of the right to self-determination, people felt that there was room for us to allow a new transitional government to come in and to prepare the country for peaceful and free and fair elections in 2015. And that meant there was going to be a process also of making the constitution for our country. But we started to have challenges in terms of progression from the transitional structures to having organs of a state. And what has happened then since was that because of the outbreak of conflict which took place in 2013, that conflict took an ethnic dimension to it. It was a power struggle within the SPLM that quickly transformed itself to become a power struggle within the SPLM with the undertones, with the fault lines of tribalism, Dinka versus Nuer, and we all know account of what happened in 2013. And this meant that there was no peaceful progression from our independence in 2011 to a system, to a political system that would be very tolerant, that would be very accommodative of the different shades of opinion. And there has always been no space for freedoms, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and so on. So what we have seen is that the political elites who led the SPLM carried on being rebels even after independence of the country. They carried on fighting and resorting to guns to settle differences. So our people were deprived of the opportunity of peace after even waited for over half a century to vote in the referendum so that South Sudan becomes an independent country. What happened was that this opportunity was snatched from them, the opportunity to have a free country in which freedom of expression, freedom of assembly and association prevails. This was all thrown out to the wind. So what happened then was that we saw the war became the the force of change in South Sudan. And as a result, international partners with key interest in ensuring that South Sudan was a peaceful country, including the region, intervened to create an environment in which there would be a semblance of democracy and freedom of expression and freedom of our people. And that was how the Access 2015 was born. But then the opportunity to implement that agreement also disappeared when we returned to conflict in 2016. So what you see here is a pattern, is a very consistent pattern of failure of the state, a failure of political leadership, a failure of political will to ensure that South Sudan does not slide back into war. But unfortunately, that's what we got in the end. And subsequently, we had the 2018 agreement. And again, this agreement did not put the people first. This agreement was designed to be a power sharing agreement between elites who were not even mandated. And as you can see, the way the agreement was tailored, it was meant to be, power sharing between the same elites in the SPLM. And there was no role for the people to play in this. For example, the mandate, going back to getting the mandate of the people was made subject and pending, for example, the implementation of provisions of an agreement that does not actually put the people first. And it was therefore easy for the political elites to manipulate the process. So over the last, 2011, 2013, 2015, and 16, many books have been written. And I signed the book by, for example, Halle Hansen. And there's another book written by Hilda Johnson, who was the representative, the Secretary General in South Sudan. And also Halle Hansen was one of the few people who worked with the SPLM from the very early days in 1983. He came to the conclusion that those people who fought for the liberation of South Sudan were the very people who now, made the people of South Sudan's lives to be at stake. And what he said was that these people, the SPLM leadership has failed to transform to become a political organization that can take charge of the country through peaceful means. They resorted quickly to violence. They are not listening to any advice from the outside. And so in the case of Hilda Johnson, she concluded that South Sudan was running as a country without a state. There are no functional state institutions. If you talk about the assembly, for example, the parliament, the executive, the judiciary, these are all organs that have failed to deliver to public expectations, nor to even to help hold the government accountable. So those are the kind of institutions that we're talking about when there is a state. خليك من الفوضى الحاصل بتاعت الكوربشن which never really stopped. الحاجات دي كلها بالإضافة إلى كتابات بتاعت people like Halle, other people who contributed, and also the international community that watch, the South Sudan became a failed state. فبقى في غياب بتاعت شنو؟ غياب بتاعت الدور اللي ممكن الشعب بتاعتنا يلعبه عشان يقدر يدي شنو التفويض لأي أجهزة أو organs بتاعت الحكومة عشان تقدر هي تعمل بمنطلق بتاعت أنه هي بتستمد الشرعية بتاعتها من الشعب. These institutions are no longer operating. The parliament is not operating, it's fully appointed on the basis of the agreement. And then we now face this situation that our people, the people of South Sudan, since they voted for referendum in 2011, they do not have a chance. They have been deprived the chance of participating in constitution making process. They have been deprived of the chance to vote their representatives to any legislative organs in the country. فده كله بيعني شنو؟ أن الدولة فشلت. لأنه الدولة بقت ما بتستمد صلاحيات بتاعتها وما بتستمد الشرعية بتاعتها من الشعب. فدي دي الفاندامنتالز يعني في انه احنا ما قادرين نمشي لقدام لانه بقينا شنو عرضه لشنو we have become hostage to the political elites in South Sudan and the SPLM on the side of the government, the SPLM on the side of the opposition. فعشان كده انت لما تيجي تلاحظ تشوف انه يعني what is the future of our country? Our country is broken up. our social fabric is gone. And the country is, you know, is يعني فيه تفشي بتاع الفساد. فيه يعني mega, you know, there are international, regional vested interests in South Sudan that now benefit from South Sudan being run as a corrupt country because it serves the interests of all those you know, business partners الحاصل في جنوب السودان. فعشان كده احنا بنقول انه شنو المحاولات بتاعت اللي هو المحاولات بتاعت اللي هو الفئات اللي هو النخب، محاولة النخب في انها تضع
We'll come for that.
كلها فشل.
We'll come for that, Dr. Hakim. We'll come for that. But I would like to bring you back in something what you mentioned. But for me, it seems like we used to put الحمل الثقيل كله about the SPLM is the genesis of the problem of South Sudan. But if I ask you this question, that today there is chaos taking place in some areas where the normal citizens, they're just killing themselves. So what is your answer for that?
I don't seem to have I haven't got your question right. If you can repeat that, please.
So I would like to repeat it again. So I said, always we are saying the SPLM is the genesis of the problem of South Sudan in 2013. Okay, as a government, so they failed. But I want to bring you back that what is about the normal people, those who are in the villages and they're killing themselves. So who is the cause of the problem of those people?
حسي ما اصله شنو يا هنا استاذ مجازي، ما في حكومه في المركز كويس، ما في حكومه في المركز، يعني there is no government in the center that puts the rights of our people first. There is no government that is ensuring that our people are protected. There is no government that has institutions of the rule of law عشان تقدر تبسط النفوذ بتاعته على الدوله هنا يعني بالقانون كويس. فالحكومه في جوبا، الحكومه الموجوده القائمه في جوبا يعني كان ممكن تقدر تكون عندها مقدره في انه شنو توظف وتسخر كل الامكانات بتاعت الدوله في انها تقدر تحمي المواطن العادي كويس، وتحمي تدي الامن اولويه، وتبدي حمايه بتاعت حقوق الناس الاولويه، وتساهم في قضيه بتاعت انه الشعب لازم يحكم نفسه بنفسه كويس. لكن دي كلها مشت سايد يعني بقت رموه في الحنايه في dustbin. Okay, what I'm saying is that there's no government in Juba that is putting the rights of the people first in terms of, for example, the right to security, the right to protection. دي كلها من الحقوق كويس. These are rights that belong to our people. If the government has failed to provide protection, then you know, people cannot be able to protect themselves. People can take the law into their own hands. فحسيت لما انت تشوف انه الحاصل حسي في الاستوائيه في الشرق الاستوائيه وفي central Equatoria. It is not, the problem is not the people themselves, the residents, the citizens, the local people. They are not the problem. The problem seems to be coming from somewhere else. The problem seems to be coming from outside. For example, you have seen the situation of cows and heavily armed militia. There is no national army in South Sudan. There are militia groups, and these militia groups are heavily armed. وكمان heavily armed by who? Heavily armed by generals in the SPLA. كويس؟ فاخذ مثلا زي بعض الكوميونيتيز which have fought among themselves and fought the government. اخذ الوضع في ابر نايل، اخذ الوضع في بحر الغزال. لما تلاحظ انه مثلا في مناطق بتاعت شمال بحر الغزال okay recently the communities were fighting with the army, with the national security and killing over 60 people. كويس؟ طيب المواطنين دول لقوا الاسلحه من وين؟ وهو الدوله اساسا بقت فاشله، ما في قانون كويس. هي ذات الدوله اللي هي بتسلح المواطنين كيف تسلح المواطنين. and I will give you some examples. في كتاب بتاع كارول بيرجر and also in Revelations recently انه the Mafia was recruited by Salva Kiir. كويس. وده ما بطريقه منظمه. يعني this was an attempt to recruit from one ethnic community and bring them into the SSPDF later. The Mafia were trained by the current Hinai chief of staff بتاعت الحكومه بتاعت جنوب السودان اللي هو سنتينو دينغ وول. Santino Deng Wall was the one who recruited and trained, he trained and graduated the Mafia and then absorbed them into the SSPDF, the South Sudan People's Defense Forces. Okay? ما كان حصل أي recruitment in any other part of the country. It was only in Bahr al-Ghazal. Now, where do these communities get their arms from? في بحر الغزال, في مناطق زي بتاعت رومبيك and so on. They were getting heavy يعني الناس بيكون عندهم RPGs, بيكون عندهم يعني Kalashnikovs, heavy weapons, right? PKMs and so on. ده اللي بيجيبوهم من وين؟ لما بيجيبوهم بيشيلوهم من الحكومة, ولأنه في قيادات في الجيش بتسلح المجموعات دي. عشان كده في بعض الأحيان المجموعات دي دخلت في شنو؟ دخلت في صراع مسلح مع جهات يعني من أطراف حكومية, ومشى فيها ضحية كبيرة, عدد كبير من المواطنين. Okay? If you come to Upper Nile, in Upper Nile you have, for example, the Boer Dinka. Dinka Boer have moved their cattle to Equatoria, and they have set these cattle on people's farms, and they also operate with impunity. يعني بيقتلوا في الناس, يعني ما في زول بيتساءل عشان عندهم guns في يدهم, بيقتلوا في chiefs, بيعملوا أي حاجة بدون تخوف بتاعت أنه حيكون في مساءلة قانونية. كويس. Because there is no state, there is no government in Juba, right? This is what we say. This is why we're saying the state has failed. The state is going towards disintegration. لأنه ما في سلطة مركزية أو حتى سلطة إقليمية ولا سلطة على الستيت ليفل بيقدر يعني يبسط نفوذه. يعني أخذ مثلا زي في الشرق الاستوائية, وقت المشاكل حصلت في الشرق الاستوائية اللي حصل شنو؟ هل كان في حكومة في الشرق الاستوائية قدرت تتولى الأمور؟ يعني مثلا تحمي المواطنين من الحناية اللي هو abuses بتاعت الهيومن رايتس, violation of human rights. كم مرة احنا مش سمعنا انه حرقوا الناس في اغورو, مش كده؟ حرقوا الناس في اغورو, في مناطق كثير, مناطق في ايسترن ايكواتوريا حرقوا الناس في بيوتهم, طردوا الناس في بيوتهم. يعني ده بقى في حكومة ثانية, حكومة which is a parallel to the government of eastern Equatoria. يعني حتى الحكومة يعني افترض انه بيكون في حكومة مشروعة في ايسترن ايكواتوريا هي اللي بتحافظ على الامن وبتحافظ على حياة بتاعت المواطنين. كويس. الحكومة ما عندها مقدرة فانه يحافظ على حقوق بتاعت المواطنين, ما عنده مقدرة فانه يحافظ على حريات بتاعت المواطنين. كويس. لكن في جيش, كويس, جيش يعني جيش بيسموه ميليشيا, جيش بتاعت ابقار. كويس. وبتلقى فيهم افراد يلبسوا رسمي يعني, وفي واحدين يعني they move the Kalashnikov and they do it in broad day open light. يعني ما في زول بيتحداهم, الحكومه ذاته ما بيتحداهم. معناه شنو؟ انه السكيورتي بتاعت الستيت is at stake, لانه انت بتشوف الناس مسلحين ماشيين وبيقتلوا في الناس وانت ما قادر تعمل حاجه. ما على الاقل انه الحكومه كان ممكن تتخذ اجراءات. الاجراءات دي يعني ممكن يعني you can disarm these militia groups, مش كده؟ ما انت حكومه, you can disarm the militia groups. Why can't you disarm? عشان يكون في استتباب بتاعت الامن. But you don't do that. What does that mean? It means that the state has failed at the state level في eastern Equatoria, even في central Equatoria. حصل شنو؟ مش كان حصل مجزرة قريب ده؟ حصل مجزرة قريب ده في منغالا. كويس. حصل مجزرة في مناطق عدة, قتلوا ناس في لوبونوك, قتلوا ناس في كاجوكيجي, وقتلوا ناس في لانيا, وقبل كده في انتهاكات بتاعت حقوق الانسان في كل المناطق بتاعت الاستوائيه ده. كان في تركيز بالشديد, يعني التركيز الاكبر على الاستوائيه, لانه يعني في تمرد في الاستوائيه, والحكومه عاوز تعمل شنو؟ it wants to threaten people. واكبر عدد من الاستوائيين هم الحسي بيكونوا الجزء الاكبر من الريفوجيز في الاسم شنو في ايست افريقيا. And for example, it was quoted that the largest exodus of refugees in Africa came from from Equatoria. كويس؟ دي أكبر يعني exodus بتاعت refugees من حماية بتاعت refugees exodus بتاعت refugees in 1994 following the Rwandan genocide. دي يعني ده الوضع اللي احنا الوقاية اللي احنا عايشين فيه. These are the realities that we live under. Okay. فدي بيعاني شنو؟ الخلاصة بتاعته أن الدولة شنو؟ الدولة فشلت. احنا بنعيش في دولة فاشلة. ولما تمشي في جوبا كويس؟ لما تمشي في جوبا ليه ما حكومة سلفاكير ليه ما يتحرك عشان يقدر يحمي الناس قاعدين يقتلون في لبنان، او حتى مثلا ياخذ يعني to disarm these communities that come from Bor well armed. Why doesn't the government disarm them? Why doesn't the Equatorial central government does not يعني central Equatorial government why doesn't it disarm these people؟ كويس؟ طيب الحكومة ذاتها ليه ما اتخذت إجراءات to disarm these people؟ فدي كلها قضايا هي كلها تصب في خانه بتاعت ان الدوله دي بقت فاشله. يعني القيادات الحاكمه ما بتهمها ولا حتى بتقدر يعني مثلا to issue a statement about the plight of the people, the killings الحاصله في Eastern Equatoria in recent times. ما استمعنا ما في اي كان في اي هناك يعني تحرك من الحكومه المركزيه في القضايا بتاعت المشاكل اللي حصلت في Eastern Equatoria ما حصل بتاتا. فالدولة على المستوى بتاعت الستيت على مستوى الولاية فشلت، والدولة على المستوى القومي فشلت. عشان كده احنا لما نتكلم عن فشل الدولة يعني has collapsed. It doesn't work. فالحكومة الموجودة حكومة بسيطة بتاعت إليتس مجرمين قاعدين في جوبا ويتكلموا باسم الشعب. ما أساسا ما عنده شرعية، الحكومة دي ما استمد الشرعية بتاعتها من الشعب. أوكي؟ فده الوضع. حسي القضية فانه احنا حال حنستمر بهذا الشكل الى متى؟ For how long are we going to continue in this kind of a state where we have a government in Juba that doesn't have a mandate from our people? And not only that, الدوم فترة بموجب اتفاقية السلام المنشطة.
That's why Dr. Hakim were coming for that. I'm sorry, we're coming for that, Dr. Hakim. So thank you very much, Dr. Hakim, of answering us the first question about the current situation in South Sudan by the security sector, also mentioning the failure of the government, the responsibility that what the government should make it to make the civilians and the citizens of the country to be saved. That is not there, and also the atrocities of human rights violation that also you mentioned in Equatoria as well, and the other sides that way we see in Upper Nile as well in Bahar al-Ghazal. That is great.
So
yes, Dr. Hakim Dario, Brother Sabata is with us here in the clubhouse as Palm also. I would like just for them to mention to the listeners down that we are here with Dr. Hakim Dario, and we continue our interview, and then later on we'll open chance for those who would like to ask questions or they have some comments. I would just let them to present that for those who are on the clubhouse, and then we come back. Yes. So, Sister Pam, can you take over there for the people to know that what we are doing, because here we are in the Facebook. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Justice, and Brother Sabata, welcome. I would like to welcome everyone to Voice of Kush Wisdom. Today we are interviewing Dr. Hakim Dario based on the article that is written with his he wrote an article about the extension of the agreement in South Sudan, and also for now we're just gonna continue. Mujasib is gonna continue interviewing him, and then later we'll have a couple of questions for him, and then in a while we will open the hand raising button. But until then, we will not be able to bring anyone up. Our apologies. Once we finish the interview with Dr. Hakim, then we will be able to bring people up. Brother Mujasib, Brother Sabata, if you have anything to add, you can go ahead, or if you want to say anything, come up. And then welcome.
Okay, Pam, thank you very much. I don't have anything other than just to welcome Brother Dr. Hakim to the voice of Kush wisdom, and also to welcome everybody who have come to listen to the interview. Thank you for coming. Bear with us, as Pam has said, until the time comes for raising hands. Then we'll give you opportunities so that you guys will also participate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Sabata. Yeah, the hand raising button was on, everyone. I just turned it off. When it's time, when we turn it back on, I will let all of you guys know. Dr. Hakim, I want to say welcome. And then I'll pass the mic to Brother Mujassir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Palm, as well, Brother Sabata. I think Hakim, those who are in the clubhouse, you hear them very clear. Sister Palm is over there controlling.
Yes, I can hear them.
Yes, very good. So I think we are in the safe side. We are going to hit the metal when it's hot. Dr. Hakim Dario, you mentioned a lot of things today to your article. That maybe a lot of your colleagues, they can agree with you, and some of them totally they can disagree. That is politics. And then everybody have his vision, why he mentioned some statement over here and there, and then let me go further on that. So, Dr. Hakim, انت انتقدت ثلاثة أشياء أنا بشوفها مركزية ومهمة جدا اللي خلت إنه التيم بتاعتنا يعني يطلب منك هذا اللقاء اللي خاص لكي توضح لأبناء جنوب السودان لماذا ينتقد هذا الدكتور الذي يسمى دكتور حكيم داريو الذي ينحدر من شرق الاستوائية هذه السياسة اللي حاصلة في جنوب السودان بملاعمها المختلفة وحفوتها السياسية المخالفة دائما على الأنظمة العالمية واللي دخلتنا في هذه المعمعة اللي نحن موجودين فيها يعني هذه الذئاب الموجودة التي تخطف هذه الخراف الضالة والتي عزفت الموسيقى بتاعتها آنذاك وأتت بأسحار من الشوك وجلست فيه هذا الشعب وأحست بالوجع. هذا هو الحركة الشعبية تماما. فهذه الحركة الشعبية اللي اليوم الدكتور حكيم داريو ينتقده في الاتفاقية بتاعت 2018 ويقول بأنه هؤلاء الشركاء أصبحوا ضالين الطريق وليس إنهم ضالين على الطريق إنما تعريفنا نقول إنهم ضالين الطريق لكن هم يعرفون تماما يسرقون ويجوعون هذا الشعب ويجلدون هذا الشعب ويرقصون على أجساد أموات هذا الشعب. فيا دكتور حكيم داريو لماذا تنتقد فترة تمديد هذا يعني المركبة اللي ماشية وهي نحو الغراق يعني دار تغرق. اوكي هذه المركبة ماشية تغرق وانت انتقدتها. في ناس بيقول انها خليها تمشي تغرق بهذه الطريقة لانه في ناس كتار ممكن يعني ينطوا من هذه المركبة بشوالات في ظهرهم ويستفيدوا منها. لكن هذا الدكتور يريد بأن المركبة دي لابد أن تصغر في جنوب السودان وكل الممتلكات الموجودة أن يستفيد منها الشعب هذا. فأنت انتقدت تماما فترة التمديد ل 24 شهر. فما هي القراءة السياسية التي أدت هذا الدكتور أن ينتقد هذه الفترة بتاعت 24 شهر تماما وعندما اتفقوا بها أصحاب الرأي يعني هم الذين وقعوا لهذه الاتفاقية وليس دكتور حكيم داريو يعني فليس لديهم حق أن يمددوا هذه الفترة الانتقالية دكتور؟
شكرا يا أخي مجازف. الفترة اللي فاتت 3 سنوات حسي من 2019 لغاية 2022 و23 هسي جاي 3 سنوات بطوله. احنا كنا يعني ما أطراف شاركت في التوقيع على الاتفاقية. We did not sign this agreement because we knew that this agreement was not creating a platform for our people to provide a mandate to anything. لأنه أساسا كان طبعا في حرب وكان في محاولة بتاعت حل والمحاولة بتاعت الحل ده يعني خطوه في يد اللي هو الأحزاب السياسية دي. وما كانت ذاتها هي احزاب سياسيه عندها شنو؟ عندها مثلا يعني تفويض من الشعب. كويس. هي احزاب لم تكن عندها تفويض من الشعب اساسا. الالكشن بتاع 2010 ما كانت هي الكشنز حصلت بعد الاستقلال بتاع جنوب السودان. فمع ذلك دول الجوار the regional countries and the international community including the Troika gave them the benefit of the doubt that they should give themselves the opportunity to implement this agreement and create a foundation so that this agreement can become a springboard for the rest of the country to move forward. لكن احنا كنا عالمين انه this agreement will not be implemented because there is a lack of political will and there is a fundamental difference in terms of the vision for a state of South Sudan. يعني فكرة بتاعت انه دولة بتاعت جنوب السودان مقاومات بتاعت الدولة ده شنو واولويات بتاعت الدولة ده شنو، ده كلها حاجات غائبة بالنسبة للاس بي ال ام. لانه انت لما تشوف انه الفساد كان استشرى شديد وانه التركيز بقى على شنو؟ على النحب بتاعت الدوله، النحب موارد الدوله. فالتفكير بتاعت هؤلاء الناس لم يكن بعد عن محاوله مثلا ايجاد يعني good governance in South Sudan, laying down the foundations of the state وما ادرك كده. فالتركيز بتاعتهم بقى تركيز على شنو؟ تركيز الهيمنه على السلطه، الهيمنه على الموارد والاستحواذ بالموارد. كويس. ما كانوا هم عندهم إرادة في أنه شنو يغيروا من هذا الأمر ويسلموا السلطة للشعب ويضعوا أساس لدولة جديدة متحضرة في جنوب السودان، لأنه ده ما كان لصالحهم، ما كان مصلحة بتاعتهم. عشان كده جنوب السودان يتحول بقت كأنه زي شنو؟ كأنه زي بقت شنو؟ إذا كمباني حس يشوف الموارد بتاعت البترول ولا موارد بتاعت الذهب وكده. كويس. ما مسروقة كله. حتى قالوا البترول باعوا لغايه 2027. فدي ما قيادات هي عاوزه الاصلح والابدع الافضل بالنسبه شنو للشعب بتاعنا. كويس. عشان كده اساسا طبيعيا فشلوا في انه شنو يطبقوا الاتفاقيه دي. وفوق ده كله ما عندهم اي شرعيه في انه يمدوا فتره بتاعت الانتقاليه للحكومه المنشطه دي. كويس. المفروض الناس ترجع لشنو؟ ترجع للشعب. اذا كان انت فشلت تاني عاوز لك فتره ثانيه انتهى بتاعت الفتره ثانيه بتاعت 24 شهر هتعمل شنو يعني؟ ما عندك اراده سياسيه. حتى انه كل يعني قول اللي هو اللي اسم شنو ده our partners the troika countries the regional countries and all of that they have seen through this. They have lost hope in these leaders. عشان كده حتى ما حضروا. They have not they humiliated this government by not attending the inauguration بتاع the extension of the agreement. وحتى برضه قرروا في انه شنو ما يمدوا مساعده because if they continue to give support to this government they are only becoming partners of human rights abuses against our people. فاحنا بنشوف انه شنو احنا لو كنا مع مصلحه الشعب، هل مصلحه الشعب في انه الاتفاقيه المجموعه ده الزمره الحاكمه ده هل من مصلحه الشعب انه الدوله ده تسار وتقاد بنفس القيادات اللي هي ما قدرت توقف الكوربشن، ما قدرت توقف الفساد. They have failed to stop the corruption in the country. They have failed to secure the country. Our people are being killed in Eastern Equatoria, in Central Equatoria, in Western Equatoria, in Upper Nile, in Bahr Ghazal. People continue to live. And they are still here in Juba. They make no difference at all whatsoever. So why should we continue to allow them to stay in power? Right? Mumkin they can stay in power by force of arms, okay, by imposing themselves, okay. That's a different question. لكن احنا لازم نقول شنو؟ نقيف مع الشعب، لانه حقوق الشعب ومصلحه بتاعت الشعب كويس، مصلحه الشعب هو اكبر من مصلحه بتاعت افراد بتاعت الاس بي ال ام. عشان كده احنا بنشوف انه نقول شنو؟ احنا نقيف ضد تمديد الفتره الانتقاليه دي من جانب بتاعت انه يصف في مصلحه بتاعت الشعب انه ما يكون في شنو؟ ما يكون في تمديد للفتره الانتقاليه. There should be no extension and that serves the interest of the people, because كان ما في extension مع السؤال حيطرح نفسه. طيب البديل شنو؟
Before to go to the Bedil, Dr. Hakim Dario, but why are you refusing this extension and this group, or name it like how you want it, this political, I don't know, benefits in South Sudan? They signed that piece and they said that they did not implement what have been, written on that paper. They try to find out sometimes so that they can implement the peace agreement. But why are you refusing that? Why?
صح. احنا عارفين انه النازل ما ده محاوله بشنو؟ لمحاوله تشيد the public، محاوله لخداع بتاعت الشعب، على اساس انه في بعض البنود ما قدروا ينفذوها وكده كويس، that they have not implemented certain provisions to the agreement. They should be given more time to implement the agreement. Okay, yes. That's the only excuse. The excuse ده ما مين بدري يا اخ بدأوا يعني for the last 2 years what have they been doing? They have not been implementing the agreement. What has changed? What has changed? إذا كان قضية بتاعت قروش كان عندهم قروش، لكن هسي هيمشي يلقوا قروش وين يعني؟ هيمشي يلقوا قروش وين عشان يقدر ينفذوا الاتفاقية ده؟ ما هم باعوا البلد، باعوا البترول ل3 سنوات الجاية، هيمشي يلقوا القروش ده من وين عشان ينفذوا الاتفاقية؟ كويس؟ سرقوا الذهب، والذهب ده ما خطوه ذاته ما سخروه لشنو؟ عشان يقدروا ينفذوا الاتفاقية. القروش ده كلها مشت وين؟ كويس؟ ما هم عملوا contracts, they made contracts with fictitious companies. كويس؟ ما قدروا ينفذوا اي بند من البنود بتاعت الاتفاقيه ده بهنايه in spirit or in letter. Okay, فدي it's just another attempt to continue to have a lease of life to get legitimacy from the agreement. ما انت حاسي لما تشوف انه شنو يعني legitimacy بتاعتهم الشرعيه بتاعتهم تستمد من الاتفاقيه وعاوزين يستمدوها من الايجاد، لكن ما يستمدوا الشرعيه بتاعتهم من الشعب. احنا عاوزين نقول انه شنو ما يكون في فرصه هناك لتمديد الفتره الانتقاليه. كويس؟ عشان السؤال بعد ذاك بيقدر يطرح نفسه، السؤال بيطرح نفسه يعني the question will force itself. So if these people don't extend themselves, then what should be the alternative? كويس؟ الالترناتيف هنا انه الشعب هو يكون الالترناتيف. كويس؟ دي عشان كده احنا عاوزين نقول انه شنو نفتح الباب للشعب. يعني احنا بعد ذاك we have to shift from being elite centric SPLM centric. بعد ذاك احنا نعمل شنو نفتح الفرصه للشعب، الشعب يلعب دور بتاعته. كان ما عملنا كده معناها هنقول انه شنو خلي الشعب يلعب دور بتاعته بعد سنتين، وما في ضمانات فانه بعد سنتين الشعب يقدر يلعب دور بتاعته في العمليه ده حتى وكان في الانتخابات. ما انت جاي بعد ذاك شنو قاعد تديهم الصلاحيه عشان يكتبوا الكونستيتيوشن. if you say extend the transitional period, you are actually giving them a mandate to write the constitution on your behalf. وهنا عارفين انه المجلس ده مجلس الشعب الحسي ده مش مجلس شنو يا جماعه؟ مجلس معين. This is an appointed parliament. We don't want to have an appointed parliament to make a constitution for us. The people have to elect their representatives to a constituent assembly, and only they as the people, as representatives of the people, can make a constitution on behalf of all of us. لكن هسه لما تقوم تفتح لهم الشارع تقول لهم خلاص مدوا الاتفاقيه عشان تنفذوها، ما خلاص هيمشي يعملوا لنا constitution بتاعت الاس بي ال ام وهنا بنكون ما عندنا صوت فيه. كويس؟ فلاسباب دي احنا لازم نشوف انه شنو ما يكون في اي تمديد للفتره الانتقاليه، والقضيه بعد ذاك الكره تكون في الملعب بتاعت الشعب. كويس؟ ده النقطه، ده القضيه الاساسيه، انه الملعب الكره بعد ذاك تمشي تكون في الملعب بتاعت الشعب، ما يكون في الملعب بتاعت شنو الاحزاب السياسيه.
Before Dr. Hakim to think about the shop and give that ball for the shop to play, I would like to go more deep about the politicians themselves. That I would like to stick on that before to go to the shop and what is the alternative. Let's give that another chance. حوار ده طويل نحن ماشيين فوق. لكن دكتور حكيم يعني كلامك مظبوط. ما دارين ندي فرصه لهؤلاء البازلوسك عشان يمشوا قدام ويحلبوا هذه الابقار ويشربوا لبنها. كويس؟ ويتمتعوا بكل شيء، وبعد ذاك انا ما اعرف، انا ما داير اتكلم في حاجات ثانيه عشان ما يكون شويه هناك. دكتور حكيم، يعني حسي فتره بتاعت التمديد ده الظاهر المفروض يكون فوقه يعني رساله واضحه من كل الاحزاب السياسيه ومن كل الحركات المسلحه ومن كل الحركات اللي يعني هي في اطار سياسي لكن لسه ما وضعت نفسها كحزب سياسي، وكل المنظمات المجتمع المدني كويس والانترناشونال كوميونتي والترايكا وكده. they should take a decision, or they should really say that where are they from this paper that what Kir and Riek Machar and Dov Dengalor and name it like how you want it, sign it to condemn that paper, you know. But the first thing that I want to start with the international community and Troika. Dr Hakim Dario ناس كتير عملوا حاجات بتاعهم ده بعربي كده بالبسيط ده، عملوا حاجات بتاعهم ده, and the international community is watching. Those of Troika, they wrote a paper before Kir to go for the conference, and Kir عمل شنو قفل أدنانه مع ناس رياك مشار ومش يتكلم. So what it means?
الورقة اللي قدمته ناس ترويكا for example كويس كان يعني it was like giving a warning to leaders of the transitional government or national unity كويس على أساس إنه this issue of lack of political will has now come to a head, that even the Troika countries themselves no longer believe that this government, no matter how long extension you give it, no matter how much you urge them to implement the agreement, they lack one fundamental thing, who are political will. They don't have the political will to implement the agreement. The key provisions of the agreement, for example, أخذ قضية بتاعت الأمن كويس لما تاخذ قضية بتاعت الأمن they provisions on setting up a national army for example has not been implemented. There seems to be like pick and choose what you want to implement. So there's bad faith. The agreement is not implemented in spirit and letter. The Troika countries cannot just lie. They cannot go with this and think that this is okay, that's fine. They're paying from their taxpayers' money to support this agreement, and they don't think that these leaders are, serious about implementation of the agreement. All that matters to these people is that they want to stay in power. كويس؟ فعشان كده كان الدوم في شبح and it's a diplomatic action. That if we are partners, we want to see a degree of seriousness on the part of these leaders, and they have not shown that. And so the Troika countries have a right to stop and say, look, we want to work with the people of South Sudan. And that's what we say. That's what the Troika countries say. At least the US has spoken very clearly. And no, they want to work with the people of South Sudan because these leaders have now failed. They cannot be entrusted with transformation of South Sudan. They cannot lead South Sudan to a better future. So it means that there is now an opportunity for us to think outside of the box, outside of this SPLM box. And we have to hold these leaders accountable. They have to be held accountable because you cannot just continue on indefinitely like this. That yes, put more resources to people who have failed to deliver. ما هو عندهم 3 سنوات عملوا شنو؟ كلها بس مشاكل، كلها بس ما في خدمات. Instead هسه احنا بنتعايش في وضع is getting worse. Look, today our people are not getting salaries. For the last 6 months, people are not getting salaries. The economic situation is getting worse. The economy has collapsed. The dollar exchange rate has gone through the roof, and so on and so forth. And the شيء ثاني انه في شنو؟ في recycling that ministers. You bring this, get this out in a few months' time, bring another one وكده كويس. فما في اساس يعني there is no foundation for giving further benefit of the doubt to these leaders to continue in power. شفت كيف؟ فعشان كده يعني يستحسن انه افضل في انه الناس تبدا تفكر في البدائل. It's better that we start to focus on the alternatives. كويس. So I believe that انه زي ما انت قلت اشرت للقضيه ده، فانه شنو حتى المناقشه بتاعت القضيه بتاعت تمديد الفتره الانتقاليه كويس ما صاحبوا عمليه بتاعت شنو استشاره شعبيه. يعني مثلا تقول منظمه المجتمع المدني SPLM it was called NDM. NDM is a party to the agreement. They have not been consulted. A large number of civil society organizations have not been consulted. يعني ما كان في مشورة شعبية. يعني الحكاية بقى شنو you only pick one or two زي ناس يكاني كده يجيبوا لك ناس يكاني يجي يتكلموا لك to give support to the government. انه قال the civil society خلاص gave support to the government to proceed. كويس. يكاني ذاته احنا عندنا فيه رأي. Does he really represent the civil society? He's representing CIPO, اللي هو Community Empowerment Organization, just a single voice. Okay. But he does not represent the whole range and shades of opinion within the civil society. المفروض الconsultations that should have taken place. لأنه دي قضية بتاعت تمديد بتاعت فترة انتقالية وما بس في يد بتاعت الحكومة، ما بس في يد بتاعت سلفاكير ورياك مشار يتفقوا في خلف الكواليس ويقوموا يطلعوا لنا بقرار بتاعت انه احنا عملنا تمديد للفترة الانتقالية. That is not their mandate. That's not their right. كويس. فالنقطة الأساسية هنا انه شنو؟ ما صاحبوا عملية بتاعت استشارة شعبية. كان هي مع المنظمات المجتمع المدني، كان هي مع القوى السياسية، كان هي مع كل حتى البارتنرز international partners themselves. They are also stakeholders in this. They should have been consulted. مش كده؟ القرار ده بقى في يد بتاعت منو؟ في يد بتاعت سلفاكير ورياك مشار. وده ناس طبعا عندهم شنو؟ عندهم interest. They have nowhere else to go because if they don't extend the agreement ما خلاص ما بيكون عنده فرصة. لكن أنا كنت بشوف إنه إذا كان ال SPLM-IO in particular وكل الأحزاب اللي تم مثلا اللي هي parties to this agreement, the first thing that they should have done is this. يعني كانوا يتفقوا إنه شيء ما يعملوا شنو؟ ما يعملوا تمديد للحكومة الانتقالية ده كويس عشان لما يحل الفترة بتاعت المرحلة الانتقالية لما ينتهي سلفاكير ما بيكون عنده اسم شنو شرعية. كان هو براء عايز ينفذ الاتفاقية بشخصه كطرف واحد في الاتفاقية ده يخلوه يمشي لقدام كويس ينصب نفسه ملك عشان يقدر شنو؟ عشان يقدر ينفذ الاتفاقية ده. لكن الأحزاب الثانية كانت كلها شنو؟ تعارض قضية بتاع التمديد بتاع الاتفاقية، التمديد بتاع المرحلة اللي اسمه شنو؟ عمر الحكومة الانتقالية، وهم ينسحبوا. ده كان ممكن يقدر يخلق ضغط ويخلق فجوة ما بيقدر يخلي سلفاكير يتناور في القضية دي. لكن هسه الحاصل عنه شنو؟ هؤلاء including هنا رياك مشار ما ينتهزوا الفرصة عشان يقفوا مع الشعب. instead وقفوا لمصالح بتاعتهم في انه هم يكونوا الاسياد في الحكومة ويستمروا في الستاتس كو وكده. لكن ده كان فرصة متاحة لناس سوا ولسلفاكير اسم شنو رياك مشار وناس لاماكول والجماعة دول كله يقول يا اخواننا احنا next year 2023 we are not going to be able to renew the mandate of this حكومة لأنه إحنا فشلنا. ما هم they should admit the mistakes. They should admit the fact that هم فشلوا عشان يخلوا الفرصة للشعب. لكن ما بيفكروا كده، ما بيفكروا من منطلق بتاع مصلحة الشعب. ما هم كان ممكن يقدر يخدم مصلحة الشعب في شنو؟ الاعتراف بالفشل. الاعتراف بالفشل يا إخواننا إحنا قضينا 3 سنوات اللي فاتت ما قدرنا نطبق يعني ننفذ الاتفاقية ده. فإحنا عاوزين نرجع لكم كشعب كويس. وبعد ذاك خلوا سلفاكير، كان سلفاكير اختلف معهم خليه يستمر بعد ذاك هيعرفوا انه ده ديكتاتوري كويس. فده النقطة انا كنت عاوز اوضحه.
very good. لكن النقطة ده ذاته عشان الناس يفكروا فوقه بطريقة واسعة جدا، وفي ناس كتار ممكن يسألوا هذا السؤال. انا وجودي هنا مرات طبعا هو ضروري ممكن يعني to present the thinking what the people are thinking down here and there. And let me ask you this question. Dr. Hakim, when you mention the partners I mean the South Sudanese or the stakeholders, those who they signed the peace agreement, those who are South Sudanese parties or movement, they should leave Kir with that peace agreement without signing again the extension for 24 months, for example. So, Dr. Hakim, and you mentioned they should leave Kir alone. But now these people, they sign that peace agreement. I mean, they sign again to go for 24 months. And they already think that they are looking the way forward to go for election. Before to go on that point, let me just ask you this. What do you think, as Dr. Hakim Dario, the rest of the parties and the movement, they said yes to Kir to sign for another 24 months. Are they really have that will to look what the people are looking for? Or they are just thinking about what Kir is telling them? Are they afraid from Kir? Or what is going on? We want to know what is going on, by the way. Because we see them, nobody's coming in the media can talk. They are not free. They are like in prison, but they're still signing to say to Kir that we are still going to stay with you as a husband who is beating us every day in that house, cooking to him and doing everything. But we are still going on with you. So what is wrong with them?
أنا اتكلمت مع واحد من الأعضاء بتاعت الحكومة ده. I don't want to mention his name because he didn't want to be quoted. He told me this, that انتوا البرة انتوا احوال اضغطوا. قال احنا ماشيين مع الجماعه ديل بس كده، لانه احنا ما عندنا اي حاجه، لانه كولكور موجود في الساحه والناشونال سيكيورتي موجود في الساحه. وحتى الكلام ده رياك مشار اشار له انه يا اخ يتكلم، قال يا اخ انه ما في مساحه ديمقراطيه، وانه في ناس البوليسيه وناس الناشونال سيكيورتي، عشان كده الناس ما قادرين يتكلموا، الناس كلهم متخوفين. وعموما القاعدين في جوبا هنا ده متحكمين على الوضع العسكري اللي هو الوضع بتاع السكيورتي كويس، وبيحاولوا يضغطوا على القيادات السياسيه دي. فكل واحد عاوز شنو؟ عاوز يحافظ على مصلحته. ما القضيه بيها حسي قضيه بتاعت انك انت شنو؟ انت عاوز تعيش كويس، عاوز تدفع لبيتك تسوق العربيه وكده. انت ما بتقدر. Many of these politicians are not able to forego all of this in the interest of the people. فالناس متخوفه. ومعناه شنو؟ حتى القرارات، يعني حتى لو كان يعني لازموا هذا الطريق كويس، معناه كل القرارات هتتخذ بنفس الضغط بتاعت الضغط الامني. ما هسي شوف كان اللي حصل قريب ده شنو؟ مش انه رياك مشار the IO objected to the political parties act، مش كده؟ لكن مع ذلك استخدموا the mechanical majority. الميكانيكال majority موجوده، وده حسب القضيه لسه ما حلوا. لكن رياك مشار ستيل مع ذلك ده كله بدل ما كان يستفيد الفرصه يقول انه انا اتخلى من الموضوع ده كله خالص وارجع للشعب عشان الشعب بعد ذاك يحكمني، على اساس انه انا حاولت اطبق الاتفاقيه دي لكن فشلت، لانه الطرف الثاني ما مستعد، ما عنده اراده سياسيه في انه مثلا يطبق الاتفاقيه. لا، رياك مشار ما حيعمل كده، رغم انه الناس الاس بي ال ام ايو have been يعني the provisions، يعني the مقترحات بتاعتهم were not included. They could not do anything. The mechanical majority is going forward. بتفيد ضغط. فالقضيه هنا معروف، يعني اللعبه معروفه ومكشوفه كويس. سلفاكير بيلعب، بيستخدم قروش، يستخدم undue influences like security وكده، ما بيدوهم فرصه. عشان كده الجماعه ديل كان الساوى، وانا اتكلمت مع قياده من قيادات بتاعت ساوى، قال لي يا اخي حكيم الا انت تعامل وتشتغل والكلام ده من برا، لكن هنا تحت جوا هنا ما بيدونا فرصه. اول ما تلف كده بيقدر يرسلوا لك ناس الكره، بيقدر يعمل لك مصيبه. شفت كيف؟ so they are not willing to sacrifice.
Okay.
They're just going along. ده الحاصل، ده الحقيقه.
Alright.
وطيب
Good. Dr. Hakim,
how do we go about?
Dr. Hakim, how we go about that will come on these questions, but I think you want to go on that, but I still want to find something here. Dr. Hakim, you already mentioned that you talk with some of them, those who are inside Juba, and they mentioned to you that my brother is very difficult for us here. You are outside, you can try your best. For us here هنا جوا فتيل هنا قاعدين مقفولين جوا فتيل وما في طريقه. طيب اذا الناس دي يا دكتور حكيم فاهمين الوضع بتاعهم خطر من الناحيه الامنيه وخلاهم انه وقعوا لانه جارينهم بحباله عشان مثلا لو اي زول جره شمال ممكن يشنقوه ممكن يعملوا له حال وكلهم جوا فتيل ما يقدر يتنفسوا الا كير يفتح لهم شويه ينفسهم شويه زي كم دقيقه ثاني يقفل الفتيل في راسينه الفله بتاع الفتيل. انا شايف دكتور حكيم ينتقد حتى NDM في الحكومه اللي هو تحت قياده بتاعت لاماكول عشان بيتكلم بانه الفتره الانتقاليه دي تكون موجوده ونحن نتكلم في موضوع بتاعت الحكومه التكنولوجيه. وفي نفس الوقت دكتور حكيم برضه ينتقد الناس الموجودين في جوبا بانكم انتم ما المفروض توقعوا وانت عارفهم تماما بانه الناس دول مضغوطين ممسوكين من يدينهم الدوجعوا. كيف نخرج من هذا الاطار بتاعت الضغط الموجود من كير والضغط الموجود من opposition like someone like you for those who are inside يعني.
يا شكرا مجازي. هو فعلا يعني انت لما تنظر مثلا زي اخو الناس NDM كويس. NDM بس بيتكلم من منطلق بتاعت انه شنو انه ما في مشاوره وانه هم واقفين مع الاتفاقيه، لكن حتى الفكره بتاعت انه يكون في تمديد للفتره الانتقاليه دي قضيه بتبقى تحت مشوره بتاعت كل الاطراف بتاعت الاتفاقيه بما فيه سيفل سوسايتي وكده وكده، فهم لسه بيشوفوا نفسهم جزء لا يتجزا من شنو من الاتفاقيه. فدي اسلم طريقه بالنسبه لهم، اصلح طريقه بالنسبه لهم عشان يقدروا يحافظوا على شنو على امن بتاعتهم، عشان ما يقولوا انه هم خرجوا على الاتفاقيه. عشان كده هم بيتكلموا المنطلق بتاعت انه الاتفاقيه هم مساندين الاتفاقيه، لكن بيختلفوا مع كيفيه بتاعت تمديد الفتره الانتقاليه. وهم مثلا بيشوفوا انه ممكن صح انه يعملوا تمديد للفتره الانتقاليه، لكن ده لازم يتم عن طريق بتاعت المشاوره والتشاور مع كل الاطراف. فده رأي بتاعت NDM من الداخل، NDM بتاعت دكتور لاماكول كويس. لكن مثلا لما تجي لبعض الكيانات الاخرى، اخذ ناس سوا، اخذ ناس مثلا FDs، اخذ ناس تشانغسون، واخذ ناس كافه الكيانات دي ما طلعت بتصريح. هم كلهم ما طلعوا بالتصريحات كده شنو يعني تصريحات فرديه لكل الكيانات دي كويس، ما طلعوا بالتصريحات. many of them did not come out with public statements to justify why they support the agreement. They just support it, but they have no public statement to underscore and underpin why they supported the extension of the agreement and whether they have been consulted كويس. فدي من طرف. لما احنا نجي بعد ذاك نشوف اوكي احنا عارفين الوضع الواقع، الامر الواقع على الارض كويس. الامر الواقع على الارض في شنو؟ في قضيه بتاعت يعني البطش وال يعني threats to the opposition groups وكده، فهم شغالين في وضع شنو؟ وضع difficult. But the question is this: انت كحزب سياسي كويس وانت كحركه سياسيه او حتى حركه ثوريه، انت المفروض تقوم بواجباتك لمصلحه الشعب. ما هو القضيه ده ما قضيه بتاعت فرد وكده، دي قضيه بتاعت المصلحه العامه. وانت استخدم المصلحه العامه، انت هتخدم المصلحه العامه كيف؟ بالسكوت؟ هتسكت على ما ممكن تقدر تنتقده؟ طبعا المسؤوليه بتاعتك شنو كحركه مثلا تنادي مثلا تنادي بتغيير او تنادي باصلاح في الدوله. انت اذا كنت ما بتقدر تنادي لاصلاح والفرص بتيجي بتفوتك، الفرص تفوت على نفسك الفرص، فانك تقوم يعني تنادي باصلاح في الدوله، تنادي باصلاح للشعب. طيب شغلك شنو يعني كحركه سياسيه او كحزب سياسي او كتنظيم او حتى كتنظيم من منظمات المجتمع المدني؟ اذا ما كنت قاعد تؤدي دورك لمصلحه بتاعت الشعب ولا للمصلحه العامه، then you have got no business being in government, you have no business to be شريك في الحكم ده في الفترة الانتقالية. لازم تكون عندك رأي، يكون عندك رأي حول تمديد الفترة الانتقالية أو لا تمديدها، يكون عندك رأي والرأي مقنع تقدمه للشعب عشان الناس تقدر تفهم أنه ده موقف بتاعتك. لكن زي ما احنا عارفين أنه الكيانات دي كيانات يعني بتقودها أفراد، كويس، ما بتقودها كمثلا شريحة شعبية عندها وسط اجتماعي وعندها شباب وعندها مثلا شعب يساند وكده، لا. عشان كده هم بيلجأوا لاتخاذ القرارات الفردية. They take individual decisions. They don't take decisions which are based on their constituency through consultations that the constituencies بتاعتهم وشنو. حسي تشوف انه هل الكيانات دي واحد منهم عمل اجتماع عام عشان يقدر يعمل مثلا مشاورة مع القاعدة بتاعته، القواعد بتاعته كان في أبر نايل وبحر الغزال ولا في جوبا، ما يتركزوا كله بقى في جوبا هنا، ولا في وجود لهم في بحر الغزال ولا وجود في أبر نايل ولا وجود حتى في الاستوائية، إنما وجود بس في شنو؟ في كيانات بتاعت الحوتيلات، كويس؟ ده أحزاب حسي بقت في كيانات بتاعت حوتيلات، كيانات كده لغاية ما بتعرف هي ماشية لوين، بس بتظهر وتحاول تجي في الإعلام لما يكون في مناسبة زي مناسبة بتاعت شنو؟ اللي هو توقيع على تمديد الفترة الانتقالية، فبيظهروا في الوقت زي ده، بيحصروا عشان يبقوا شنو؟ يبقوا ياكلوا. فده القضية. ما الحكاية دي تبقى بقت محزلة. ما حصل في الفترة اللي فاتت ده كله، هل كان عندهم صوت؟ ما كان بيسمع لهم ولا أحد، لم يقولون شيء، وإنما كانوا زي ناس طرش، كويس، ولا بيتكلموا، لا يتفوهوا بما هي أصلح للشعب، يعني ما بيتفوهوا. فالمهم دي الوضع القائم على الأرض، الواقع السائد على الأرض. فإحنا بنشوف أنه الدور بتاعتهم أساسا دور غير يعني فعال، ما عندهم دور فعال، ما بيلعب دور فعال بالنسبة لقضايا بتاعت مصلحة بتاعت الشعب دي. إحنا حقه يعني نعترف بالقضية دي. So if that is the case, who then will take the responsibility to challenge and to criticize the government? It is the opposition that is outside. Maybe to a certain extent, a certain degree, also the civil society organizations on the ground that really stand for the rights of the people. Because of this situation, then the onus is also on the opposition outside. For the opposition on outside to intensify opposition to this regime. ما أي حاجة الأوبوزيشن بيقوله خطأ. أي كلام الممكن الأوبوزيشن يقدر يقول في القضية بتاع المستقبل بتاع الجنوب، كويس. We look at it from the merits of whether it supports the agenda of the people or not, whether it supports the agenda of change. فعشان كده احنا لما نجي بعد ذاك نتكلم عن الدور بتاعتنا شنو، احنا بنشوف انه حاولنا الفترة اللي فاتت كلها يعني كانت فترة التركيز على شنو؟ على النخب السياسية. النخب السياسية قدرت تلعب دور بتاعتها لكن فشلت. النخب السياسية لعبت دور بتاعتها وفشلت. ده ما بيعني النخب السياسية دي ستيل خلاص ما عندها أي دور ثاني بتقدر تلعبه، لا، في دور ممكن النخب السياسية دي تتلعبه. الدور الأول أنا كنت أشرت له في أنه كانوا هم ممكن يقدروا يمتنعوا عن كويس التمديد بتاع الفترة بتاعت الانتقالية، الفترة الانتقالية للحكومة المنشطة، كويس. يقفوا فشلنا، نرجع للشعب، وبعد ذاك الشعب ذاته والعالم كله هيتحير منو المشكلة في جنوب السودان. المشكلة منو؟ لكن أحسن ظاهرا أن المشكلة بقى سلفا كير ورياك مachar، كويس. وكان ممكن يبقى المشكلة كان حيكون بس سلفا كير لو كانوا هم امتنعوا من التصديق على شنو؟ على تمديد الفترة الانتقالية. ما دام ما عملوا كده، بعد ذاك احنا ممكن نقدر نتحرك للنقطة الثانية اللي هي انه احنا البديل شنو؟ What is the way forward؟
دكتور شكرا جزيلا. ان احنا اول حاجه انتهينا من الاسم شنو ده، من النقطه اللي نحن شايفينها كحوار مركزي اولي للنقاش بتاعتنا اليوم او لهذا الانترفيو اللي نحن ماشيين معاه. قسمناه لثلاثه اجزاء. الجزء الاول ان احنا انتهينا منه الان. الجزء الثاني ان احنا دايرين نتكلم فوقه قبل ونمشي في الجزء الثالث اللي هو ماذا نفعل او what the opposition they should do, those who are outside, someone like you and also those who don't sign the peace agreement in 2018, of course, you are one of them. That will be on part 3. But let's go on part 2. Part 2, it has only 2 questions that what we would like to see. The action of Dr. Hakim about it, or what Dr. Hakim is thinking they should be done. So let's think about the international community and the partners of the peace agreement that have been signed in 2018. Of course, Sudan is one of them, as also the international community, but they're not really in that power to see that that peace can bring something, because they seem like they're far from what is going on in South Sudan. But Uganda, it is involved on it. So what do you think, Dr. Hakim, the Sudan and Uganda and Troika, they should do to those of Kir and Riek Machar and the rest of the oppositions, those who are inside, and they agree for another 24 months where our people that is still suffering? And we know that also America is already stopped the help, that what is helping for South Sudan. So what do you think the international community should do, and someone like you and the rest of your colleagues, those who are outside, what kind of diplomatic move they should really put a pressure to the international community so that they can really put Kir in the hot seat?
شكرا مجازف. النقطة بتاعت أنه السودان دور بتاعت السودان ودور بتاعت يوغندا, the role of Sudan and Uganda in all of this. طبعا السودان مرتبط بمصالح اقتصادية بتدور حول البترول وموارد بتاعتها. هي طبعا عايزة تستفيد, ولازم يكون في نظام في جوبا كويس. النظام اللي في جوبا لازم يكون في نظام مساند لمصالح بتاعتها الاقتصادية. فده منطلق بتاعت السودان, وهي بالتالي ما بترى أنه في غضاضة في تمديد الفترة الانتقالية. Sudan is not disinterested. It's not a disinterested party. Sudan is a vested party in the economic interests that accrue from the oil. They want to be working with the regime that would ensure that the regime in Sudan gains economically from continued relationship, and there has to be a government in Juba that works and coordinates with the government in Khartoum. And this relationship has developed in the recent, past. So انت بتشوف انه here السودان ما كان الأول, يعني it was the one that ran to the media quickly and actually suggested that the two parties of the agreement in South Sudan, or rather the parties to the agreement in South Sudan, have agreed to extend the transitional period. This came from Sudan. It did not even come from Juba. So the first party that jumped the gun and made announcements about the extension of the transitional period was Sudan, because Sudan wants to make sure that the flow of the oil and the relationship between Sudan and Juba continues, and so they would jump to supporting the regime in Juba. And so as far as Uganda is concerned, برضو طبعا يوغندا مرتبطة يعني باقتصاد بتاع جنوب السودان كويس. they are looking at it from the interest. If the regime in Juba continues to fulfill the expectations, the proceeds from the economy of South Sudan, that actually helps to prop up the regime and to empower the regime in Uganda. They don't have an issue being and continue to being the guarantor, the local guarantor. So both Sudan and Uganda have vested interests in continuation of the regime in Juba. They are not interested in elections. ما انت بتشوف من الشك في السودان حصلت ثورة. من هو الذي وقف ضد الثورة؟ هو النظام القائم في الخرطوم، والنظام عسكري ونظام ديكتاتوري وقف ضد الشعب. لغاية حسي اليوم حسي مشاكل جارية في السودان لأنه في قرصنة بتاعت الدولة، قرصنة بتاعت الحكم كويس. العسكر قضوا على آمال بتاعت الشعب السوداني في التغيير كويس. فهم بنفس الشكل ده زي ناس الفكير مع هؤلاء من طرف واحد، يعني من نفس الطينة كويس. They are from the same, birds of the same feather flow together. There are no democratic credentials in Sudan. There are no democratic credentials in Uganda, and there are no democratic credentials in Juba. So these are all, powers that be that want to continue to prevail, so that they can ensure that their business empires in South Sudan continue uninterrupted. Vitali Uganda doesn't have an interest in ending the current transitional government in South Sudan. They want to see it continue. And if at all they want to hold elections like what happened in Uganda, those elections would be rigged. They would not be free and fair elections. وبالتالي الوضع القائم both in Uganda, in Sudan, and in South Sudan is anti-democratic. They would not want to see that South Sudan emerges from this quagmire to become a more democratic, accountable country. Like what is happening in Kenya may have an impact. وانا عاوز اقول انه شنو من هذا الطرف كويس في ارتباطات اقتصاديه وتجاريه وعلاقات، طبعا علاقات منفعيه متبادله بين كل الاسم شنو الانظمه القائمه هسه في الجنوب وفي السودان وفي يوغندا. اوكي طيب احنا نقوم نجي نقول ما هو الدور اللي احنا ممكن نقدر نلعبه، لانه هسه حتى الان it is Troika only that has expressed concern about the situation in South Sudan. Sudan did not express concern about what is happening in South Sudan. Uganda did not express any concern. The only party that expressed concern هو Troika. وحتى وصل لمرحلة بتاعت انه they don't want to participate in the processes, the proceedings about renewal of the transitional period for this Artigono, this failed government. Right? So this is the situation that we have. What we can do, the people in South Sudan and the opposition groups in South Sudan have listened very carefully. The message from Troika is very clear. The message from the US in particular, as the lead Troika country, is also very clear. They want to work with the people of South Sudan. And Senator Lee, for example, issued a second follow-up statement on the situation in South Sudan recently, in the last 2 or 3 days, stressing and reiterating that Salva Kiir and Riek Machar have failed to secure and rescue this country, and that the people cannot entrust their future in the hands of these two leaders. So this is now an opportunity for the opposition groups. This is an opportunity for civil society. This is an opportunity for all of our people in South Sudan to test this call by the US and a leading Troika country who wants to see South Sudan working with the people, that they want to work with the people. ده أهم نقطة اللي إحنا ممكن نقدر نشوفه. بعدين كان في the people were not being put at the center. هسي إذا كانت Troika countries now listen to the call of some of us saying that we should put the people first, let's give that all the benefit of the doubt. And the opposition groups should all work together to ensure that they are part of this process, but the people come first. Right? The people come first. عشان احنا كنا قبل كده قبل سنتين يعني احنا وقت when we founded EPA, Equatorial People's Alliance, it was founded on the back of a Equatorial People's Declaration and Charter of Rights. فده ما كان يعني مثلا يعني an act against the people of Upper Nile or against the people of بحر الغزال. احنا بس عاوزين نشوف انه شنو احنا let's start in our constituency. Let's put the people first. Let's organize the people to stand and have a voice. There will come a time when the world will start to recognize and to stand with the people of South Sudan like they did in 2011, when they stood with the people of South Sudan to exercise the right to self-determination and for South Sudan to then be born in, anew as an independent state. They stood with the people of South Sudan. Now, their government, the government that was there, has failed over the last more than since 2005 لغاية حسي احنا في 2022 كويس. الحكومة فشلت. احنا ما شفنا أي تغيير، ما شفنا أي شنو. Instead, there is a lot of cry in the country. that our country has failed, our people are being killed, the human rights of our people have been abrogated, have been violated, and so on. So if there is a window of opportunity فانه الناس تقيف مع المصلحه بتاعت الشعب, that's what we all should do, and that's what we tried to do from the start when we founded EPA, Equatorial People's Alliance, التحالف الشعب الاستوائي, عشان نقدر ندي نموذج على ارض الواقع, فانه احنا ممكن نقدر نغير المسار بتاعت السياسه في جنوب السودان اذا احنا رجعنا للشعب, وهذا الشعب عنده حق في انه يمارس حق تقرير المصير, حتى حق تقرير المصير في اقامه بتاعت حكومه انتقاليه, حق تقرير المصير في اقامه بتاعت شنو المؤسسات بتاعت الحكومه الانتقاليه, كان هي مؤسسات تشريعيه ولا كان هي مؤسسات تنفيذيه, كويس, دي كلها تبقى شنو, تبقى مصدرها والتفويض بتاعتها نابعه تكون نابعه من الشعب. عشان كده احنا لازم يعني نحاول نبرز مثال, نبرز نموذج بتاعت انه الكيفيه اللي احنا ممكن نقدر ننفذ به المسلك الجديد ده, which we call people centric. This people centric, how do we go about it? You see, so we have to organize the people, rally the people behind it. والناس الاستوائيه بالذات, our people in Equatoria have suffered. The large majority of our people in Equatoria have been forced into refuge. بيجوا refugees في neighboring countries, and they are the most disaffected by this process. They don't exercise political power. كويس, زي ما انا قلت يعني ده كل شعب بطوله ما عنده حق في انه يمارس مثلا الحنايه, يمارس القوه السياسيه, ما بتقدر الشعب بطوله ما بيقدر شنو يعين ممثلين بتاعته. واحنا عاوزين نتكلم عن اقامه بتاع دوله جديده, عاوزين نكتب constitution جديد, والشعب في وادي والناس اللي عاوزين يكتبوا الكونستيتيوشن ده في وادي اخر. فاحنا بنشوف انه شنو الشعب لازم شنو يقوي نفسه. The people should empower themselves so that they can demand their rights, the right to self-determination in terms of, electing their representative to a constituent assembly, the right to self-determination in terms of mandating the members of the executive and legislative organs في الحكومة الانتقالية. أنه الحكومة الانتقالية لازم ينبع من الشعب. You see, the right to self-determination gave birth to South Sudan as an independent state. فحسي برضو the right to self-determination by the people will give birth to a new transitional government on the back of the mandate of the people. عشان كده احنا عاوزين نتكلم في area بتاعت انه احنا ممكن نقدر how can we bring this into realization. فده كله حتى مثلا الopposition groups can support this, لانه الopposition group ذاتها هي عاوزه لها شنو؟ هي عاوزه لها تفويض من الشعب. والتفويض ده احنا ممكن نقدر نقننه عن طريق ما بنسموه People's Constitutional Conventions. People's Constitutional Conventions ده تكون قبل ما نصل هناك يكون في حوار جاري بين كل القطاعات بتاعت الشعب بتاعنا, الاحزاب السياسيه, منظمات المجتمع المدني, الافراد, كويس, concerned citizens, all the sections of our communities should participate in this dialogue about shifting the focus to being people centric. كويس, ده الاهم حاجه. وبعد ذلك بنقدر يعني بنبحث في انجع السبل فانه احنا شنو نخرج من المأزق اللي احنا حاسين فيه, مأزق بتاعت فشل بتاعت الدوله. نخرج من المأزق ده ازاي واحنا عارفين انه النسيج الاجتماعي بتاعتنا ما قائم كويس. عاوزين نشوف كيفيه بتاعت ربط هذا النسيج الاجتماعي الذي انفصم على نفسه, كويس. فده كله قضايا اساسيه. النسيج الاجتماعي ده ما بيصلح الا عن طريق بتاعت شنو؟ عن طريق بتاعت constitution making, because the constitution making has to be a people driven process. It is about the will of the people saying what government system they want to have during a transitional period, who will represent in this transitional period, what are the legislative institutions that they should have during the transitional period, what are the executive institutions that they need to have during the transitional period. فده كله التفويض لازم يجي من الشعب, كويس. The political parties can participate in these constitutional conventions. Let them be elected by the people. Let them be mandated by the people to become part of the organs of the transitional arrangements. كويس؟
Yes.
فاحنا بنشوف انه حتى الكلام عن الاسم شنو التكنوقراtic government. When you talk about the technocratic government, who is going to mandate this technocratic
Dr.
government?
Dr. Hakim, this is what we're coming for now. We are coming to the last to our last discussion. That let's go on this point. This is, I think, the last, because we are running now to our time. The time what we fix it for 2 hours. Your last question, Dr. Hakim, that will be throw for you. That what Dr. Hakim is thinking about the new elements that where we see this new frame political work or paper or ideas that have been mentioned by some of your colleagues, those who are outside, those who don't sign the peace agreement like you, and they start to think about how they can bring all the South Sudanese together and to rescue South Sudan from the situation where we are. Like what you mentioned already, the country is going to collapse, and it's already collapsed. And it should be a new ideas. These new ideas, I think some of your colleagues already call about it, and also you are calling for it. And now they call for joint hands together. They call for a round table for all the South Sudanese to come and sit and to start to focus really what is the problem and how we can resolve these problems. Even with those SPLM, those who are inside, the government itself, to accept to come in this round table and to say that all of us who are South Sudanese, let's start to resolve our problem from here. And then we go for the process, what you already mentioned, I don't know, the conference, the constitution making process, how we can resolve the problem of the region and all this, and what kind of government do you want. مش احنا مش دارين ياتونا من رئيس لكن احنا كيف نحكم. الحاجات ده كله. فدكتور حكيم داريو, what do you think about your colleagues, those who are outside, already proposed a round table conference to call all the South Sudanese with different movement and parties and organization and civil society and all those kind of things. Are you there, Dr. Hakim Dario? Or what do you think about it? There is some consultation. There is some things that where we can see Dr. Hakim have some ideas here and there also to be a part of that round table. So all those kind of things, South Sudanese, they want to know tonight. What is your positions from all this call, that what your colleagues are calling for?
شكرا أخ مجازف. I want to put this in context that in the absence of any other legitimate mechanisms by which there could be a dialogue to improve the situation in our country and to move forward with a consensus الجامع اللي هو مثلا الإجماع الوطني في قضايا وأولويات أساسية. احنا طبعا مع النظام القائم في جوبا ده إذا كانوا هم ماشيين اوريدي قفلوا راسهم وماشيين بتمديد بتاعت الفترة الانتقالية, the government has already decided to continue to extend the transitional period. They are not going to listen. They are not going to listen to any dialogue. They want to carry on. They don't want to be disrupted. What the opposition is proposing is a disruption to the existing status quo. ده الحاصل. زمانك في السودان وكنت كم طرحوا فكرة بتاعت round table conference. الفرقاء لم يكن يتفقوا, ما اتفقوا وما طلعوا جنوب السودان من الاسم شنو ده الانفصام اللي كانت قائم كويس. They failed. The round table conference failed to deliver its expectations. Maybe it was because of bad faith. Maybe it was because of lack of political will. فإحنا ما عايزين نخش في نفس التجارب. تجربة بتاعت أنه إحنا ممكن نقدر ننادي لمائدة مستديرة, ننادي ل round table conference, and we don't want such a round table conference to be a round table conference of the elites. And أنه في النهاية they may not like what happened in Sudan. There is a high chance that such a round table conference will not be successful with the parties that are in government today. that would mean a disruption to the status quo. They don't want to disrupt the status quo. Let's appreciate that. If it was feasible for them to disrupt the status quo and to be parties to a new beginning, a new future for South Sudan, they would have not rushed to extending the transition themselves in the transitional, give them another lease of life in a transitional arrangement. Shufta gave. It's going to be very difficult to persuade them to participate with the rest عشان نقدر نطلع بشنو بإجماع وطني. ده is not going to be easy to do. لكن شنو المبادرة أو التفكير لوصول إلى محور أو الوصول إلى منبر للتشاور، منبر لتعبير ووضع مثلا ترتيبات والتفاكر حول الترتيبات المستقبلية لجنوب السودان وخارطة الطريق لجنوب السودان، ده ممكن كويس. في طبعا في شنو في صعوبات حتواجهنا في الكلام ده كويس. حسي ما في جهة بتقدر تودي التسهيلات ولا الموارد لإقامة بتاعت شنو حوار وطني جامع كويس في دولة محايدة زي ما واحدين قالوا. يا دولة هي الدولة المحايدة اللي بتقدر شنو تستضيف هذا الحوار. Which neutral country is welcome to host such a roundtable conference or such a dialogue for building a national consensus on priorities about the transition from the current status quo in the country. So someone somewhere would have to put in the resources to be able to create the opportunity for people to come together in a venue which would be inclusive of all the shades of opinion in South Sudan. Because we're all in search of peace. If that was possible, then it is an opportunity for all shades of opinion in South Sudan to come together and sit down without predetermined outcomes. يعني هسه احنا لما نتكلم في بعض الناس خلاص طلعوا predetermined outcomes انه المائدة المستديرة ده حيطلع بتصريحات او بهناية بتطلع بproposals about establishment of a technocratic government. شفت كيف؟ يعني خطوها خلاص انه المائدة المستديرة من الاهداف بتاعته شنو؟ عشان يقدر يوصي بتكوين بتاعت حكومة انتقالية بيقودها technocrats. Okay? It's a predetermined kind of outcome for the conference. This is not how we want to go about it. We support the principle of dialogue. انه يكون في حوار وطني ويكون الحوار الوطني يكون inclusive ومن خلال الحوار الوطني احنا ممكن نقدر نطرح.
Dr. Hakim, let's be clear on this point so that we understand also very clear. So, but the country is in chaos already. There is no any institutions. There is nothing in the country. This country should be built. So, Dr. Hakim Dario, what do you think that they should form? What kind of government that is going to take the responsibility in the transition period to resolve the problem of South Sudan, to prepare for the election for the parties, someone like you, like I don't know, our parties as well. It should be a body who is going to lead, isn't it? So I don't know how is your philosophy about this? That's why you refuse that. People are thinking about Tonocrat. Tonocrat, it is known that Nasbita Kafahat, but Kafahat Dianina Darino to build the institution where we have. So please, can you enlighten us on that? Thank you.
Al-Kafaat di, where do you source them from? Al-Kafaat di بتجيلك من وين؟ كويس؟ لأنه الكفاءات دي أساساً كفاءات منتمية. كفاءات منتهية محسوبة عليها. يعني الغالبية بتاعت الجنوبيين هسي نتيجة لعدم وجود مثلا يعني نسيج اجتماعي. في ناس عايشين يعني احنا we are a divided society. كويس؟ الكفاءات ذاته ما هي كفاءات انت بتقدر تقول انه موجودة تمشي من you can bring them off the shelf. يعني they are set somewhere on the shelf and you can buy them like you're getting something from the shop. شفت كيف؟ عشان put them together and you say now you're mandated to go and run the transitional government. اللي هيديهم الماندate ده ذاته منه لا احنا لما نتكلم عن الكفاءات اللي هيدوم التفويض ده منه، اللي هيفوضهم منه، كويس؟ ده سؤال. كويس؟ احنا ما ضد الكفاءات اساسا، ما ضد الكفاءات، لكن الكفاءات لازم تكون عندها شنو؟ عندها تفويض من الشعب. We are not against technocrats. We are not against technocrats, but the technocrats themselves have to be mandated. And we have a clear idea of how this mandate can be provided. بالنسبة للكفاءات دي، كويس؟ ما احنا عندنا كفاءات في الاستوائية، وعندنا كفاءات في بحر الغزال، وعندنا كفاءات في أبر نايل، كويس؟ فالطريقة اللي احنا ممكن نقدر يعني تصدير بتاعت الكفاءات ده، او مثلا ايجاد بتاعت الكفاءات ده وتفويض بتاعتها بيتم من خلال بتاعت اللي هو المؤتمرات الكونستيتيوشنال كونفنشنز ده، كويس؟ احنا هنكون عندنا مثلا constitutional convention in Equatoria, constitutional convention in Upper Nile, constitutional convention in بحر الغزال. and this كفاءات ممكن اسامي بتاعتهم تطرح للمجالس، المجالس بتاعت الحنايه ده، بتاعت الكونستيتيوشنال كونفنشنز، ومن خلال بتاعت الكونستيتيوشنال كونفنشنز احنا بنكون عندنا كفاءات ممكن تقدر تمثل الشعب بتاعتنا في الجمعيه التاسيسيه، ويكون عندنا كفاءات بتقدر مثلا يعني تدير وتكون جزء من شنو وطرف في شنو في الاجهزه التنفيذيه، وكفاءات تكون في الاجهزه التشريعيه، كويس؟ وحتى وان كان محدود، حتى وان كان انه الحكومه تكون اللين جفرمنت، مش كده؟ اللين جفرمنت ده will have a very specific mandate، لكن التفويض لازم يجي من الشعب، عشان بعد ذاك ما في زول ثاني يتخطى ده، وبكون وضعنا اساس بتاعت انه الشعب هي صاحبه القرار، الشعب هي صاحبه المصلحه، الشعب هي صاحبه الاتخاذ القرارات. We want to make sure that the sovereignty of the people flows from the people to the institutions of the transitional government. شفت؟ شايف النقطه ده؟ انه يكون في يعني flow بتاع sovereignty from the people to the organs of the transitional government, whether those are legislative, whether those are constituent assembly, whether those are executive organs of the transitional period. كويس؟ عشان كده الشعب كله بعد ذاك بيعترف به، كويس؟ وما حيحصل عمليه بتاعت خطف، يعني اختطاف بتاعت شنو؟ اختطاف بتاعت مصالح بتاعت الشعب لمصلحه بتاعت شنو؟ مصلحه بتاعت كفاءات بعينها. شفت كيف؟ فدي حاجه ما صحنا. It's not easy for us to agree on a technocratic government، لانه احنا عايزين بعد ذاك نحمش دور الشعب. احنا ما عايزين نحمش دور الشعب ثاني.
That's why Dr. Hakim.
اتفضل.
Yeah, that's why Dr. Hakim, now your colleagues are calling for the round table to sit, to bring those ideas, and people should discuss with it, and then we agree in a certain formula where we are going forward. Isn't it? I think that is how we should be.
احنا ما ضد مبدا بتاعت الحوار، كويس؟ وبعدين احنا بس عاوزين نقول انه شنو the outcome should not be a predetermined thing. يعني حسي لما انت مثلا تشوف the group of the non-signatories, they're already talking about the technocratic government, that they don't want to be part of the government, the transitional government، لكن هم عاوزين انه الحكومه الجايه تكون حكومه تكنوقراطيه اللي هيقوم بالاداره بتاعت المرحله الانتقاليه الى حد ان يتم المرحله الانتقاليه، وبعد ذلك هم هيجي يخشوا في الانتخابات. كويس؟ ده جميل منه. Okay, it's nice to hear that, but that is like it's not enough. يعني ده كلام حلو، كويس؟ ده كلام حلو سايد، لكن in reality the technocrats يكون محسوبين على القطاعات والكيانات دي. شفت كيف؟ لانه الوضع متفاقم في الوسط بتاعتنا الاجتماعي انه احنا ما عندنا شنو؟ ما عندنا حتى قاسم مشترك، كويس؟ ما عندنا قاسم مشترك، وبالتالي بيصعب علينا انه شنو؟ نقوم نفوض عدد ما من ما مثلا تسميهم على اساس انه هم technocrats. The technocrats can serve, but they have to be mandated through the People's Constitutional Convention. لان الشيء الاساسي هو انه شنو؟ انه الشعب، كويس؟ يحق له ممارسه حق تقرير المصير. حق تقرير المصير بيعني انه الشعب ده يكون مسؤول من شنو؟ من اختيار بتاعت الريبريزنتيفز بتاعته للكونستيتيوشنال اسامبلي. ما هي القضيه الاساسيه حسب بتواجهنا هي القضيه بتاعت الدستور الدائم. ده القضيه الواقف ضدنا حسي اللي احنا عاوزين نتدخل يعني نحاول يعني نحله قضيه بتاعت الكونستيتيوشن. This is the main issue.
Alright.
وعشان احنا نقدر نصل ل constitution which is representing all of our people, we have to ensure that في constitutional conventions, we have to ensure that انه the representatives بتاعتنا اللي هيكونوا في constituent assembly are elected by the people. لكن المجموعات الثانيه بتتكلم عن مؤتمر دستوري، بيتكلموا عن مؤتمر دستوري كويس، ويقول انه يكتبوا من خلال بتاعت المؤتمر الدستوري يعملوا الدستور وبعد ذاك يقدموه للشعب عشان الشعب يقضي في امره كويس. لكن وبيتكلم من منطلق بتاع انه faith based groups, civil society groups, political organizations وكده اهو هيديروا قضيه بتاعت كتابه بتاعت الكونستيتيوشن. احنا المقترح بتاعتنا مختلف. المقترح بتاعتنا انه the constitutional conference is only an input كويس as a consultative process to bring the best ideas to the table كويس. لكن الشيء الاساسي هو الكونستيتوينت اسامبلي، وانه الشعب هي بتختار ممثلين بتاعتها عشان مثلا يكون في تفويض لهم يشاركوا في اللي هو اللي اسمه المجلس التأسيسي كويس، اللي هو بيسموها الجمعيه التأسيسيه للconstitution making process كويس. دي حاجه مهم جدا. عشان كده this is why the constitutional conventions become very important. And these constitutional conventions once they elect their representatives to the constituent assembly هيكون في مؤتمرات بتاعت constitution, any number of constitutional conference you want to do, it's free, it's okay, you can participate in the constitution in constitutional conferences. الconstitutional conferences ده في النهايه بتقدم مقترحات للconstituent assembly. Alright. And the constituent assembly is elected by the people. So كيف؟ دي الطريقه اللي احنا بنشوف انه ممكن بنقدر يعني to ensure انه there is participation of the people in the constitution making process.
Okay.
ده النقطة الأساسية بالنسبة لي.
Dr. Hakim, I think we are in the same boat. Anyway, what I read from the system or the Kharida Tariq, it is a proposal from your colleague, those who are outside. And then this proposal, it is as in always in politics, you cannot let things just like that and you said that things will start from where you propose something and you put something on the table and the rest of the people, they will come and then we start to add, we add and some things we throw them out and then in the end of the day we'll come with one paper. That way you can help all of us to rescue the South Sudan from this problem where we are. Anyway, I will organize another debate. That will be a wonderful debate where I will see Dr. Hakim Dario giving his own opinions about what he mentioned right now with some of his colleagues, that what they are calling for the round table. Hopefully that round table is open for all the opposition, those who are outside, and organization, civil society, and even individual. That's what they have really, they can help South Sudan to come and join hands together so that we can go further with something that way we see South Sudan will be bright in the future. I think Dr. Hakim Dario will end here the discussion. And hopefully I will organize a debate. No, I'm coming on that. I'm coming, please, Sabata. I will give you a chance. Wait, let me just finish this point. We'll come on that, Dr. Hakim Dario. I will organize another debate, you yourself with some of your colleagues, and then we will try to find out a suitable, way how things they can flow up in the way how we can see that will be a great way for us to resolve the problem. So right now, I think we finish in the Facebook. I will give chance for those who are in the clubhouse to ask questions for Dr. Hakim Dario or to add any comment. And I will start with Brother Sabata, I think. That's what I would like to say. Brother Sabata, you can go ahead. Thank you.
شكرا مجازف.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think Sabata would like to continue. Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Sabata. Yeah.
Very much, Brother Mujassir. Sorry, I thought you were ending the program already.
No. No. I just end my questions. Okay. I end my questions so that I give you a chance. Yeah.
Yes. My question to Dr. Hakim is just like this. Brother Dr. Hakim.
زيد الصوت بتاعتك مجازف. زيد الصوت بتاعتك.
Wait.
If you can put the volume up.
Yeah. Wait. Brother Sabata, just some seconds. Let me adjust something so that Dr. Hakim can hear you very good. Just wait. Yeah, just wait. Sabata, can you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you can ask your question now. I think maybe it will be clear, I think.
Okay, can you guys hear me clearly now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. My question to Brother Hakim is as follows. Brother Hakim, you have presented your intentions and your inner feelings very clearly, that you really wanted this conference, conference as suggested by the holdouts to be something that is not only elites coming together and coming out with some proposals here and there, but you want to even these elites or the technocrats who are going to sit down, or the technocrats that are going to be formed, should be elected by the people. If that is the case, then will it not be then necessary that Kiev participates willingly in such a conference, because he now is responsible over the bigger size of the citizens of South Sudan from a legal standpoint, based on international perception. Because all those citizens who are inside Cuba are legally under him. And, if I'm not mistaken, even those ones who are outside the country, except only those who believe they are outside the convention and call themselves rebels. So now, with him refusing or showing less desire to be part of this convention, how then can this idea that people electing technocrats come to reality? How is that possible? I end here.
Yeah. Dr. Hakim, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Sabata. This is a very important question, and this comes to the question of details. All that I'm presenting here.
Dr. Just 1 second. Let me make sure if the clubhouse they can hear you good, because I changed the system a little bit. Sabata.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you people very clearly.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. I was just saying that's a very important question, Sabata. All that I presented is a framework. Is a framework that I borrowed heavily on from proposals that we presented to IGAD in 2018. And the hope was that then the process of implementation of IGAD will start off with constitutional conventions in Equatoria, in Upper Nile, and Bahr el Ghazal. And so that the people of Equatoria, people of Bahr el Ghazal can participate in decision making by themselves. But of course, this wasn't considered, and so it ended just being on paper. And so the chances are that if there is no mechanism for implementation, it will also still remain on paper. So this presumes that Salva Kiir is actually not in decision making to stop these constitutional conventions taking place. And what we are looking to, for example, how we go about implementing this is like, say, for example, we have a key stakeholder like the United States that has invested so much for South Sudan to become an independent country. And they have every stake to ensure that South Sudan does not remain a liability on the international, regional, and globally. It's not a liability, and that South Sudan, the people of South Sudan, should be helped to become viable as a state, or at least are able to live in peace, or can find a way to resolving their conflict, the problems that we have gone through over the years. So the U.S. could impress through the United Nations Security Council and through the AU to say that the elites in South Sudan have failed. Now, even this idea of extension of the revitalized transitional government of unity, the extension of its transitional period should not be recognized, should not be accepted by the international community. So that would create a new reality on the ground. The AU can provide additional forces. UNMISS can be empowered. The forces of UNMISS can be expanded. Even from West Africa, for example, we can borrow example of good practices in West Africa. They could contribute some forces to come and stabilize the security situation in South Sudan. And this is with the objective to ensure that there is security, and this security is in the not in the hands of Salva Kiir, because there's no national army in South Sudan today. The state does not exist. These are all militias. So militias cannot be entrusted with the security of the nation as a whole. So these security provisions should be incorporating the elements of the UNIMIS, the elements of the AU African, AU countries, AU forces, and also from West Africa, and then other international mechanisms, including, for example, from Troika countries. They can contribute forces to ensure that there's security in South Sudan. And then these conventions can be organized by our people in Equatoria, in Upper Nile, and Bahr Ghazal. And these conventions will become the vehicle for self-determination for the people of Equatoria, people of Upper Nile, and people of Bahr Ghazal, so that we can agree a transitional period in which we can bring all of our people back, those who are in refuge, to come to a secure place in their country and be able to participate in decision making. This way, it requires significant investment, which is worth it, to have security stabilization in South Sudan. And if the US and the Troika countries are ready to help and stand with the people of South Sudan, they should stand and help the people go through this process, because this is the only process that is not elites driven, is not technocratic. It is simply a people-based approach, a people-based process in which the people now take charge, because we've had enough of the elites. We have had enough of the SPLM that has not transformed itself even into a political party. There is still a rebel organization. The SPLA is still a rebel organization. SSPDF is not a national army. These are all rebels. Now, I think international diplomatic leverage can be applied to ensure that, first, diplomatically, this government is not recognized, and that if they want to impose themselves, let them impose themselves, and let's deal with the international community. There will be also focus on the international players that enable this system, that enable Salva Kiir's regime. Those would be brought into target. عشان كده احنا قلنا كان جبال في الاول اذا كان رياك مشار كان ما خش مع Salva Kiir in this new partnership and they stayed outside, it would make it difficult for Salva Kiir to stand on himself, by himself, on behalf of all of South Sudan. But now that Riek Machar joined Salva Kiir, then they have to go together. And this is what Senator Lee said, the US Senator, said that Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, have to go. But how can we make them go? We have to, basically ensure that they are not recognized by the international community. They become a pariah state. Kenya is moving towards democracy. There may be elections that would bring change. So Kenya would become a democratic country, and they would not support this regime in Juba. The only two poles that would continue to support this regime in Juba would probably be Uganda and Sudan. But leverage can also be applied on Sudan and Kenya and Uganda, not to interfere with the problems of South Sudan, not to interfere with the people of South Sudan. But this requires a lot of investment on the part of the US. First, to ensure that there is prioritization of security. to provide security for the people of South Sudan, to be able to exercise their democratic rights through, decision making, in particular, in this very secure environment. So that can be a way forward. Like in our challenge here, is the U.S. ready?
Just to help you continue with the discussion. Who will have to make this arrangement where the AU forces and the Troika forces will be mandated to come in? Who should make that arrangement? Is it the UN?
UN Security Council.
Who?
The United Nations Security Council may be requested to do that. We can lobby the US to work with the United Nations Security Council to be able to bring this into fruition. For example, you have also argued in the past that where we have a weak state, which has become a liability to the international community, where insecurity in the region would be amplified. So there is need for the people of South Sudan to be given the opportunity freely and independently out of undue influences of the elites to do something about their future. And if this doesn't work, if we cannot allow this, and I think you have every right, Brother Sabata, to even articulate the agenda of trusteeship, because there is no system in South Sudan. There's a failure of the state. Our people are killed.
Exactly, you have already answered, because I felt like you are coming closer to trusteeship, even though you are not saying it openly. But now I'm satisfied.
Yeah, but in this point, I think Dr. Hakim, if you finish what Sabata asked you, I think you already answered him. But the answer can be also discussed, because there is some elements that the act of the United Nations, it cannot go in the way how I think some of us think it will happen in South Sudan. When we want South Sudan, for example, a certain land that it will take its independence. It's not in the way how some of our colleagues or brothers are thinking. But this is not the place of the discussion of it. I think tomorrow we are going to discuss that in the South Sudan is not a cup of tea. It will be a very good time to discuss that issue. Let's stick with our discussion here. And then I think Sister Pam is there down. And if there is some people who would like to ask questions, it will be good. But somebody throw me this question. It's a little bit funny, but I think it is right. I see it is funny, but it's right. Dr. Hakim Dario said this round table, they should call people to come, because we are doing things for the people and by the people. That's why the government exists. All right. And then also to choose those technocrat people or al-kafahada lazim yaji min ash-sha'b. الحاجة اللي فيها دكتور حكيم داريو الراوند تيبل ده ما هو شعب ذاته. Because when we said that we are calling all the South Sudanese to come and rescue South Sudan, I think it's the people. We are not going to call up somebody who is under the tree there, is milking his cow, that will come and think about what is Dr. Hakim is talking about. I don't know, round table, about the constitution making process, about those kind of things. I think you are going to select the intellectuals to come and discuss and to decide for the South Sudanese, those who don't know how the country should be run. So what is your answer on that then? Because I think the people are there already, but only what kind of people, that's what we want to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So, the decision making when you look at decision making on matters to do with مصير بتاع الدولة ومصير بتاع الشعب بيكمله, it's not something that is taken lightly to be put in the hands of a few elites to decide because they know better than the rest of the country. There's also no proof that they know better than the rest of the country. لكن احنا بنقول شنو؟ انه احنا بنعترف بحق الافراد حق بتاعت اي واحد جنوبي يقدر يطرح افكاره في كيفيه بتاعت انه احنا نخرج من المأزق اللي احنا قاعدين فيه اللي احنا فيه ده، نخرج كيف كويس. and that is the right of all the political organizations, political movements to articulate their position. We do not stand against يعني people coming together to discuss things. ما هسي يوماتك هاخد مثلا زي هنا المنبر بتاعت روم. المنبر بتاعت روم ما كان exclusive and it was not inclusive of all the non-signatories كويس. بأي حق يعني، لأنه ده كان المفروض يكون منبر للحصول يعني to search for peace, but you want تحتكر المنبر. احنا ما بنرى انه في فائده في انه الناس تحتكر منابر كويس. هنا we welcome the idea of a round table conference that is inclusive, but for people to find the recommendations on the way forward, but it may not have the decision making powers كويس. it may not have the decision making powers other than like say for example يكون في اجماع في قضيه بتاعت انه احنا نعمل شنو، ندي السلطه للشعب. الشعب هي تكون صاحبة السيادة، وإحنا نسخر كل الإمكانيات بتاعتنا كويس، نسخر المقدرات بتاعتنا، الكفاءات بتاعتنا وكده، عشان نقدر شنو، نقدر نسهل للشعب بتاعتنا إنه يقوم شنو، يمارس حقه كويس، يمارس حقه في غياب بتاعت سلفاكير وفي غياب بتاعت رياك مشار وغياب بتاعت الكتل العسكرية التي هي ما إلا وسيلة في يد بتاعت القوات ده، القيادات ده، عشان تقدر تحرم به الشعب بتاعتنا من الحرية بتاعته. So the principle of a roundtable conference is something that you want to call it roundtable conference, it doesn't matter really, but it's a venue. دي منبر للحوار الوطني لإيجاد شنو؟ الإجماع الوطني حول قضايا مصيرية، حول قضايا أولية بالنسبة للشعب بتاعتنا. ده الحاجة المهم. عشان كده احنا بنشوف انه من كل اي طرف جنوبي انه يشارك في حوار بهذا يعني with this sort of like scope. احنا نكون عندنا كل القيادات السياسية الموجودة بتقدر تحصل، يعني بتقدر تشارك، كل المقاومات بتاعت منظمات المجتمع المدني تكون عندها ابراز، تكون عندها شنو، تمثيل، عشان ايه في النهاية احنا نقدر نلقى خارطة الطريق without predetermining it. We say we consult, we come up with the proposals. قد تكون 3 options مثلا، تكون مثلا option بتاعت technocratic government. اوكي، ده اللي اصحاب الناس اللي بينادوا بالtechnocratic government. I'm not saying that they should not call for a technocratic government. They can call for a technocratic government. كويس. انا برضه من حقي شنو اعمل شنو from on my side of the argument I want a people driven process. كويس. قد تكون في اقتراحات ثانيه بمثلا hybrid type models. كويس. ده احنا في النهايه عاوزين نطلع بالشنو، باللي هي اجدى، يعني we want to come out with the best proposal possible for our people. كويس. فاحنا ما عندنا خلاف في ده. تعال انت بالتكنوقراطيك جفرمنت بتاعتك ده حطها في الترابيزه، وتعال انت بالفكره بتاعتك المغاير للتكنوقراطيك جفرمنت ده حطها في الترابيزه، ويكون عندنا 3-4 خيارات ونفصل فيهم، وممكن نقدر نصل لاجماع وطني. كويس. وبعد ذاك الاجماع ده، او حتى كان ما في اجماع لقضيه مثلا مقترح معين، يكون عندنا توصيات نقدر نقدمه للشعب بتاعتنا، وبعد ذاك بنقدر نبحث عن كيفيه بتاعت انه الشعب ممكن تقيف مع مقترح ده ولا مقترح ده. لكن في النهايه انا واثق انه اذا كان احنا ادينا الفرصه للشعب في انه يمارس حقوق بتاعته، هيختار المنهج الشعبي، والمنهج التي يقوم على كويس اشراك الشعب لتقرير المصير او القضيه بتاعت التفويض. من هم الذي يفوضون؟ هيفوضوا ناس منو عشان يبقوا members بتاعت transitional government in a legislative capacity, in a constituent assembly capacity, or in an executive organ capacity. So these are all matters that our people can decide and participate. فأنا بشكرك يا أخوي مجازي. We welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hakim. I will give you a chance to take some water because you still have some questions that are coming from the clubhouse. With my sister down there, Sister Pam, I think I will throw the floor for you to take over. I think I finished with my questions to Dr. Hakim Dario, and I'm really very happy to have you today here. You will continue with us, of course, in the Facebook, but there is some question will come from the clubhouse. I will put your camera a little bit down so that you can take some water, and then I'll bring you up. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Sister Pam, I think Dr. Hakim will be around, and then follow up with your colleague or your brothers, those who are down, the citizens of South Sudan, all the civilians, those who would like to ask questions, brothers and sisters, colleagues, and also, I don't know, maybe foreigners as well, because it seems they are here to listen. So can you take over, you and Sabato?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother Mujahid. Once again, I want to come. I don't know, there is a echo.
Yeah, wait, let me close my mic because I use the mic for people to hear you guys there. Now, let me close it now. So you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I want to welcome everyone in the room in Voice of Kush, Wisdom. And I also want to welcome Brother Dominic and Warila to the Mazaha. I'll go ahead and then give you guys a mic. Dominic, I believe Dominic is first, but before I give Dominic the mic, I also want to let everyone know that I opened up the hand raise button. Earlier, I turned it off because Brother Mujasib had questions for Dr. Hakim, and since today we are hosting him, we wanted to make sure that he answered all the questions that we have for him before we bring people up to comment or have any questions. I also want to remind everyone, as you see in my PTR and in Brother Dominic PTR, we are holding the PTR for the rally. We're holding the South Sudan Peaceful Rally in September 16th. New York City at the United Nations. So please, if you United States of Canada, come and go to the opinion. Voice the voice. We are the voices, so we would like to encourage all South please to come to the peaceful rally in New York City. Brother Dominic, go ahead and pass you the mic.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Sister Pam Kalini. Assalamu alaikum, brother Jasif, Sabata, Wayahoy Warila Lifi Clubhouse, Kalini, Assalim ala Dictor de Fasharaf, Bidadium, Bidalela. أنا دوما ما قاعد أكون ميال للسؤال لأنه دي سياسة والسياسة دوما ما زي واحد قاعد يفصل. عشان كده أنا بيعمل كومنت لكن أنا أقدر نشكر أخوي الكبير دكتور حكيم داريوس لأنه هو صار حاجات مهمة جدا لكن أنا كنت داير خليه هو يضيف الرحلة السياسية اللي قاعد تحصل والمشهد لأنه في فيلم إحنا شفناه هسه وبقى فيلم حقيقة يعني it's an executions of people generals that belong to Stephen Boy without a due judicial processes يعني ما تم هي بمثابة قانون what is called kangaroo law الكلام ده تم يمكن يومين مش يومين يعني أيام قليل من التمديد بتاعت الاكستنشن الناس كان بيتكلم عنه هو الدكتور تكلم فيه بالصورة مصطفى والحدث بتاع كونيوكوني عشان بس يأمن للشعب بتاع جنوب السودان والمجتمع الدولي انه يا اخي الوضع في جوبا يعني حتى مير ديبيتي مير بتاع جوبا انا قاعد اسمع كلام بتاعه قبل شويتين ردت كلام المايكل قال قبل كم سنه انه يا احنا والله احنا ما عندنا كراطيش بتاع مياه عشان احنا نشربوا ناس ولا احنا عندنا ذكيه وفايته عملت 1 2 3 ده حتكون مصير بتاعنا ده واحد لكن انت لما تسمع الكلام اللي دار في يوم 4 ده تناقض يعني تناقض تماما لكن انا كدومين انا ما قاعد اقول مستغرب ليه؟ لانه ده كان طلب بتاع كل القوى الوقع تمديد بتاع الاجل والامد بتاع الاتفاقيه لفتره السنتين الثانيه ده كان بيتطلب لكن الاسلام يفتي فيها وده اذا دل بيدل على انه يا اخي الاستمراريه بتاعت الوضع ده حتكون كما تكون صوت الناس اللي بيتكلموا عن انه ده حتكون كارثه ده وده حتكون يعني معاناه بتاع الشعب بتاع جنوب السودان هم ما على قدر يعني انا كنت اتمنى اعمل زول زي ادمون يكاري كليه تجي تتكلم اللي يجي يصرح يقول لنا انه والله يا اخي واحد ساعه واحده افترض تساوي اثنين عموما دي ما موضوع لكن الحاجه اللي انا عايز اقول انه وده بيرجعني للكلام اللي انت قاعد تتكلم فيه ويمكن الاجابه بتاعت حكيم الاخر ده وفر لي ذاته يعني انه سوى جميل
الفوليوم ضعيف شويه كده الفوليوم ضعيف
كنا بنتكلم عن كتله الحرجه
الفوليوم
انه كل زول يفترض تجي بحاجاتها
you cannot hear
يعني الميدة مستديرة ده ما بنفترض يكون زي بتاع صبر بين انه يشوفوا لنا سلاطين ما احترامي لهم يعني انه سلاطين بتاعنا ده كانوا ناس هم عندهم رؤيه يعني
حكيم
السلطان لوليك كان بيتكلم
we are in the maximum دكتور حكيم
الصغير ما انت حتلي
it's
ما
okay
كيف يعني it's a potential crime يعني وديس is child molestation مش بالفهم الحسن لكن ده كان في صبر بعيد دي ما حكمه لكن لما انت تجي تمدد لنا اتفاقيه في حسن ده وتتكلم عن الشعب كده هنا لما نتحدث عن الشعب افترض ان نحدد دولة وشعبنا احنا ما نخاف من الانتلكشنز ما الماما بتاعنا في جنوب السودان ان احنا عدينا السلاطين بتاعتنا عديناهم اساده ودوما الحكومات بتصنع سلاطين يعني سلاطين الكاو الجوبي بسلاله ده ما يهو سلاطين الافضل صناعات حكومه يعني بعد حكومه ده ممكن يجيب له اي زول صحيح لكن احنا نفترض نحدد قضايا المصيريه زي افترض احنا ما نلعب فوق يعني انا جاي من العفون خليل بتاع مالي انا لما الناس تيجي تقعد انا بيعرف في فلان ابو العلان ده افترض ان نيجي نقعد وإحنا نناقش الموضوع ده ليه؟ لانه احنا we wanted to avoid احنا دايرين نتجنب المشكله بتاع سبب بعيد انه في ناس جابوا سلاطين so these things must be very clear it must be very clear it must be defined دمنياو هتجي الكريتيريا بتاعه تكون واضح للناس اذا احنا قلنا انه يجي من البومهات من فيلجز بتاعنا، ده should be the criteria. إذا كنا ده بتجي من المقاطعات بتاعنا ده should be the criteria. هنا ده ريكب ناس عشان ما تسوقوا ناس تاني بخلع في المرحلة اللي احنا فوق هسه. ده يوم خايف بتاعي. لكن عشان انت تتكلم عن الشاب ده ما في زول في مرحلة الهسه، ما في حاجة زي. وده بديني عشان احنا نتكلم مع حكومة التكنوقراط. حتى حكومة التكنوقراط ده يا جماعة it comes عشان ما يحل مشكلة معينة في كفاءات. طبعا عربي يقول لك حكومة بتاع كفاءات. في زول جيولوجي، في زول اقتصادي، في زول دكتور، في زول يعني تربوي، في زول قرا بزنس اند سو. يعني انت بتوظف الناس ده في زول قانوني يديروا لنا حكومه، والفتره ده حتكون متفق عليه. وندق السياسيين كله اللي عندهم طموحات ندقهم كله في الكلام. كل زول يمشي يعسس نفسه بتاعه ويجهزوا لنا قوانين. كان دي قانون بتاع بترول، قانون بتاع elections، قانون يعمل لنا ارض صالح عشان ما بعد ذاك we can jumpstart our national building. إذا ما ناس بيطالب بحكومة الديمقراطية إنه جماعة ده فشل. دكتور حكيم اتكلم بصفة مستفادة أنه سلفا كير وريال مشار لأنهم عندهم خصومات بتاعهم، عندهم دخائل تاريخية ما هيقدر يمشي لقدام. طب الناس بيتكلموا إذا أنتم اديتوا للجماعة ده أجل بتاعهم ل 100 سنة ثانية ما حتتوقع أي حاجة ثانية لأنه حتكون ملاسنات. ما هو كان قاعد يتكلم عن المساحة السياسية. طيب الحاصل في كونيا دي ما واحد من المساحات السياسية انك انت بتجد تعبر الرأي بتاعك في غلاء بتاعت البلد. وانا ما قادر اقول ده طالب لك فقيه عشان يجي يشرح لك الكلام، لا بالطبع. You see? So these are some of the problems. Now when the protagonist cannot go forward with this, then a technocratic government will come with a specific period of time with a very clear plan to take us through. And that is why I agree with what Leah, has said, that, there must be something out of this dispensation that has been around these two doers or the musketeers. عشان هنا نكون واضحين. لكن كل زول الصورة تجي بحاجاتها. يعني حتى في راوند تيبل كونفرنس ده بنحدد احنا دايرين دستور. ده الكلام اللي الدكتور قاعد يقول فوق ده المفترض احنا نتفق فوقه. لازم يكون في كونستيتوسي اسامبليز لكل المناطق دي، مش بس في ريجنز برا، حتى في الممارسات وفي المقاطعات. لازم there must be constituency assemblies دستور، there must be disseminations. وده كلنا افترض كقوة سياسية افترض نجي نجمع على انه يا اخي ده اللي احنا دايرين عشان نطلع من المعمل ده، والا ده ما ده تكون نفس الدوام. بعد ذاك الكلام السباتة قاعد يقول فوق وده بتجي احنا دايرين ولا احنا ما دايرين، احنا ما ركوب راس بل ده حيشيلوا مننا بالتراستيس. البنود بيموت، اللي بيتفضل وربنا يدينا العافيه. شكرا جزيلا مجازي وصور اللي طالع يا اخي.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. Sister Pam, are you there? Because I think Dr. Hakim was somehow out. Let me just put him in contact so that he can go through the comment of Bash Mohandis Dominic. I think the last comment, I think you got it, Dictor, but the first one, he was trying to put your attention about, to add more about the current situation in the country, and also some of the chaos that what we see, happens in Mayom. the military forces from Sudan enter in Mayom and arrest some of South Sudanese, even though I don't know if they make some criminal act or not. But the way how the governor did it, as you know, that's what Dominic is talking about. So what's your comment on that as a leader also? And also as a civil act about the human right violation that have taken place in Mayom by that action where we see it, and something really very bad. We had the images and the photos, and we are not ready to post it right now because this room was not scheduled only on that discussion, but we'll come on that through the week so that we can talk about it. I think Bashmandis Dominic was trying to find out that what's your comment on that, your strong condemnation on this kind of thing that what we see in our eyes, and this happened after Kir and those of Riek Machar and what you mentioned, those colleagues, what they signed the peace agreement. Things like this, it happened after saying that another 24 months to go further to deal with the South Sudanese. Is it this the way how they are going to deal with us? I think that what we would like to for you to enlighten more the citizens so that we know what kind of government we have. Thank you. And I think the second comment, I think you got it already. Thank you. Open your mic. Your mic is off.
Yeah. Shukran Mujazif. And I want to thank Brother Dominic for his comments and for also elaborating some of the areas that I touch on. But I hope my voice is very clear. I think I can also hear you very loud and clear now. I think I should have exited earlier on and then come back to have a very clear audio going out. So, but nonetheless, it's not too late. First, and I think I've also read the statement which was issued by Stephen Buey, and the understanding, the information I have is that members of the SSPA, I think, ventured into Sudan territory to go and exchange money or to go and buy or visit family, and then somehow maybe the information was leaked, and the authorities in Sudan decided to intercept them, arrested them, potentially with the intention to hand them over to Juba. This is clearly, and it's a violation of international law. If this is done with the knowledge that these people or these people who have been arrested are members of an opposition group in South Sudan, the only thing that they would probably do is to either take them as prisoners, but not to hand them over to the government of South Sudan, because they are supposed not to be the policemen for the government of South Sudan. They can subject him to the due process of law in Sudan, and if there is an agreement of any kind between Sudan and South Sudan to hand over people, for example, who are found to be criminals or found to be political opponents and so on, the law would deal with that differently. As it deals with criminals, it doesn't deal with political opponents in the same way that the law deals with criminals. And there should be an agreement, like we have seen in the West here, for example. There's an agreement between the United States and the UK, or between the UK and other countries, where certain criminals or certain categories of people can be subject to international law and agreements bilateral agreements between these countries to hand over fugitives or to hand over people of interest. We do not know any agreement that has been signed between the government of South Sudan and the government of Sudan relating to, for example, handover and exchange of either criminals or political opponents or anyone who might have committed a crime one way or the other. So this seems to be coming on the back of a private understanding between those in power in Khartoum and their facilitators in Juba. And of course, you can almost see the extension. What is in Khartoum is an extension of the NCP regime in Juba. You know, people like the advisor, the security advisor, got this gentleman called what's his name? Tutkeo. Tutkeo, his brother got killed, so he has a vested interest in influencing the Sudanese authorities to capture these political opponents and bring them to book in South Sudan. But this is done without any agreement. I mean, can anybody tell me and cite any agreement that has been signed between Sudan and government of South Sudan to hand over political opponents? They know, Khartoum knows that these people are political opponents. So why would they be subjected to, qarsana, to basically, take them on and then give them to the government of South Sudan? This is against international law. It's against the human rights of these people, no matter what crimes they committed.
They already killed Dr. Hakim. They have
Sorry?
been executed.
Right. Oh, that's a shock to me. I didn't know that. So all that I knew was that they were being detained.
The governor, they hand it to the governor, and the governor immediately killed all of them. I
see. This is abhorrent. This is unacceptable. This is incomprehensible. And I think this deserves utter condemnation from any South Sudanese. It's outside of the law. It means that this is the nature of the government that we want to live with for another 24 months. A government that can exercise private, and due processes to exact revenge on political opponents. This has to be condemned utterly by all the people of South Sudan, and this is only an indicator of what's in the store. These are the very same people that we want them to have an extension of another 2 years to continue with impunity, abusing the international conventions, human rights. They have no regard for due process. We have not even seen the trial of these people. They could have at least done even a trial in Juba and say, we are going to present you in the public, we're going to try you, and then we see what is the basis of the justice system that they would be using to try these people. So I'm really horrified about this, and I feel very disgusted. And I didn't know until this very moment that these people have been killed already.
Yeah, and Doctor, sorry to cut you also for your information that they have been burned to death. This is for your information. That's why Dominic was asking you to add on that, and also ask you to add about the manifestation that took place also in Konyo, and some of our brothers and sisters that are still under the
detention.
Yeah, so you can go ahead. And I think I put the comment here on the screen. You can see that. This is what happened to those in my Thank you.
I didn't see the gravity of the situation. You did mention that. You mentioned something about graphics, not being able to show them, but I didn't understand that this was actually as a result of them being burned to death. This is horrific. This is uncalled for in South Sudan, and everyone should condemn this. There's no justification for this. This is pure revenge. This is actually telling us this is how this government deals with the opponents. There is no due process. There is no due process of law. And it's the governor who decides to execute and to terminate the lives of political opponents. Even if those political opponents killed anybody, that's not how you go about treating them. There has to be a rule of law. This shows that there's no rule of law in South Sudan. This is how the system operates. And I think this should be a wake-up call. All of us, the people of South Sudan, this is the system that we live under. This is the system that is going to continue to have political power over this country for another 24 months. And I think that should be ended. We should all combine our forces to bring this regime to an end. They have no legitimacy, and we should bring it to an end. With regard to what happened in Konyo Konyo, there was a legitimate demonstration by the people, by youth, to express their discontent with the high prices of food commodities. They can't buy, they can't feed themselves, and they cannot even feed their families. So the situation has been grim, and the economic situation doesn't help. Yeah, our economy has collapsed. And I said earlier on that the oil proceeds have already been sold for the next 3 or 4 years. There is ongoing exploitation of our gold resources. Also, none of that is seeing doesn't appear in our public accounts. These are all, the proceeds of ill-gotten wealth that flows into the hands of illegal and personal businesses of the elites in power. So yes, I understand that there was this demonstration, and the security intervened to arrest people, to detain people, and many of these people are still in detention. This is uncalled for. They were exercising their freedom of expression, and you can only conclude that there's no space for freedom of expression in South Sudan. Whatever we have been, and our people have been hoping for a space, a democratic space in which they can exercise their freedoms, this is non-existent, and it will never change until Salva Kiir and Riek Machar vacate their position and leadership in South Sudan. And that's going to be the challenge for all the opposition groups to stand together and to do something about it, really give hope for this country to come out of this failed state, regardless, because at the end of the day, we want our people to enjoy their human rights, their people, economic, social, cultural, and political rights. That's really what matters, and that cannot be delayed. So that's why there's no reason for us in any way to justify the extension of the Artigonus status quo. This status quo has to end, and that's what we should impress on the AU, on the Troika countries, and the goodwill of the international community to see that this government goes away, and we bring in a new transition that puts the people first. And I think on that note, I hope I've covered some of the comments that our brother Dominic mentioned. Now, the only other item that I probably need to also come back to is this, that, for example, the idea of a technocratic government, because our system has failed, so we need technocrats to give us a space to manage the affairs of the country. Someone who would be an expert in business, another who would be an economist, another who would be a doctor, an academic, or whatever capacity that they can bring to bring shape to the kind of government that we want to have during the transition period. And I agree that the technocrats have a role to play. All I'm saying is that these technocrats would be placed, situated in the constitutional conference mechanism, in constitutional mechanisms, because the major task that is really ahead of us as a country is that we don't have a constitution. Our social fabric is broken. We do not have the mechanisms of ensuring that there's a flow and participation of our people in decision making, in exercising political power. The political power has always been, until now, exercised by elites, and the technocrats are not any different in that they are part and parcel of the society that we live in. Our society is divided, so these technocrats are also divided, and they need to have a mandate. There is a role for technocrats, and that's why we are saying, in principle, the technocrats can be situated in this people-driven process. If we, for example, like say in Equatoria, we do have technocrats in Equatoria from, in all fields, areas of science, areas of economy, and so on and so forth. These technocrats can be nominated and empowered and mandated by the people themselves. And so what we are saying is that we should have people's constitutional conventions. Look, we are stressing people constitutional conventions because it's not only just a transition. This is about our constituting of the state on foundations of a new constitution. And therefore, it is very fundamental and important that we prioritize the constitution-making process. So constitutional conventions will be providing this mechanism for us to invite the technocrats. And these technocrats would still be able to play a role in the executive organs of the transitional government, in the legislative organs of the transitional government, and also in the constituent institutions of creating our new constitution for the country. The technocrats will play part in this. We can invite them to these constitutional conventions to participate. And it is not, the whole point here is not like saying it is the right of the political organizations to be the ones that will determine and on behalf of the people determine the future. Because even many of these political organizations have not been tested. They do not have a mandate. Even SPLM itself, which considers itself to be the largest, hasn't transformed itself from a rebel political movement to becoming a party. There are no institutions in SPLM. If you count other political organizations, SPLM-IO, they also do not have mechanisms, transparent, institutionalized processes for decision-making as a political organization. Decision-making is still concentrated in the hands of one political leader who has a tribal following. Likewise, in the SPLM, they have a tribal following, and so on. Now count other political organizations on the scene. Real SPLM has never been tested. It's just a theoretical proposition. Which other political parties has been tested? None, right? Yes, you're right. These political movements and all of that will need time for them to prepare for elections. So elections are not going to take place immediately. So they have the opportunity to prepare themselves for elections after the transitional period or leading towards the end of the transitional period. So they still have, as a matter of course, they are still required to develop their capacity as political organizations that would then, challenge for the mandate of the people. They still have to do that, right? They still have to do that, and it is not an excuse that for some they need that time. They need that time to develop themselves. That's what I wanted to say, because right now they are not ready. They are not mature. They don't have basis. They have not tested themselves, and the lack of democratic space has made things worse. So these political organizations, and I agree with Dominic, they need time to mature, to institute the processes that would really help them to challenge for power and actually be representatives of the people. And that can start with the constitutional conventions. They can go to the constitutional conventions, humble themselves, present themselves to the people, sell their ideas to the people, and then even some of them would still make it to being members of the constituent assembly or members of the legislative organs, and they can test themselves through the transitional period as well. But the decision making here has to be in the hands of the people. Even if you say, okay, let these political organizations actually, during the transitional period, go to constitutional conventions, they will still be having a hard time. They are not going to prevail. The people have already learned. The SPLM has failed, and the reason why SPLM didn't want to go to elections in 2015, and the reason that they differed was that because they already read the mood of the public. That the public, if SPLM were to go to elections today, they would not be mandated. They would be defeated. So they fear, everybody fears defeat because they're not ready. But it's easy for them to get to power in a mechanism where the people are not in charge. So I think there is a cause and reason for there to be technocrats, but these technocrats have to be situated within the constitutional making process, or rather the constitutional conventions. They have every right to bring ideas to bear on the people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hakim. Thank you. I would like to let Pam to give those gentlemen to ask their questions, and we are running against time.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm going to play some videos. And before to play those videos, I'm sending a message here because I have already right to do so. I will send a message to all the South Sudanese, those who are in the Facebook. Be careful if there is kids. You have to put them far. And there is some horrible videos that what I'm going to do so, and it is painful. If you cannot bear to watch them, please be far from the screen. And I will not do this now, but I will do it in the end of the show. Yeah, to show that what the government of South Sudan is doing by their uniform, by killing a certain person, even though he's a criminal, without giving him a chance to know that he is the one who did that or not. But the way how they kill our brothers and sisters, that is not acceptable. And the voice of Kush Wisdom will take the responsibility to play those videos. And in front of the law, I'm ready to face it. So that's why I will play the video later on after the question of our brothers and sisters, those who are in the clubhouse finish. Then I will do that. Yeah. So this is what I would like to, I will repeat again so that for the people, those who will come, they will not get shocked. So Sister Pam, can you go ahead, please, with your guest over there to ask the question or to make any comments? But shortly, it will be only 5 minutes each so that we can wrap it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Madasseh. That was a very horrible news to hear. No one should be executed without getting the right justice. Anyways, Brother Warile, I'll go ahead and give you the mic, and you have 5 minutes. My apology, because we're going to close in shortly, like soon. Go ahead.
Okay, Brother
Mudassir, can you also close the microphone because it's making echoes? Thank you, Brother Warile. Go ahead.
And all Alma and all the people in the room. Okay, I just have a short comment, one question for Brother Hakim, and I thank him. He's my senior. So thank you for your elaborate presentation. And I was listening keenly since the beginning of the presentation, and I do agree with you that the country is in a dire situation. That the central concern now to everybody is stakeholders, be it locally or regionally or internationally, is that the central point is that the regime is detached from the people. And all the solutions that comes around that central point. The extension that is a reality now is conditions also by how the government will tackle this central point. And they came out with what they call the roadmap. And also the non-signatories came up with another proposal on the round table. And I'm very glad to hear perspective of Bashmahandis on what he calls the People's Convention. And I think all this conversation adds value to the discussion about the way forward. Now, I have a comment about the round table proposal. My brother Hakim, the round table proposal. I think most of the things that even your perspective that you put according to the round table proposal is to be discussed when the table is set. All the what the six organization did was to call for that and call all stakeholders to come in and have discussion and open agenda to discuss all the issues that face the country, be it politically, be it socially. That's why the stakeholders are drawn from all walks of life. And again, to address this central point that whatever solution should be in some way should have its delegation from the people. So I think your proposal, if you add your voice to the sixth organization, you will find commonalities there. I'm sure of that. Now, I heard a talk about the technocrat disadvantage of a technocrat government that was proposed as by the sixth organization. I think when people sit on the table, this will be discussed also. But what my own feeling of a technocrat is not that, you know, you are right. There is no technocrat that can run a government. A government is a political institution, has to have a political direction, has to have some direction in economic policies, it has to have a vision for building institutions like security. So the idea, my assumption is that when all the stakeholders sit on this table, they will devise a policy program for the technocrats to implement, a mandate, if you like to call it. Yes, so all these concerns will be people discuss, put a framework, a timeline, objectives for the transitional government, things that they need to achieve and how they should achieve it, and that will be their guideline. So I think there's no worry about it. Now, my last comment is about this proposal, which I think is very ambitious. So I've been listening and I read your interview with Raja Tomaso too, and you made some clarification now. But I think the central idea that came out from a proposal is more about the demarcation of the constituencies and its participation in any kind of dialogue that will involve people. So we talked about 3 conventions from the regions, Equatoria, Bahar Ghazal, Upper Nile, and then you propose that this convention will delegate, will send delegates to the central government. But I didn't hear anything about how the state governments or the regional government will be formed. So my question to you is, are you proposing, at least at this stage of the idea, that the regional governments will be formed by the region? That's the first question. The second question related to it is, what is your definition for the unit constituency that will be involved in this discussion? What I mean by that is, you have said that the current political institutions have no power base. They need time to evolve. So are you proposing that the unit constitution should be at the tribe level? And if so, is it not enforcing the very construct that we are trying to redo in our nation building process? Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll wait for your remarks.
Thank you, Brother Warile. I'll try to be, yeah. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, Dictor, you can go ahead now. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, in the interest of time, so that we can address other questions as well, I'll try to be very brief here. On the last question, I just want to, use the example of Equatoria conferences that took place in 2011, 2012, 2013. There were conferences that were organized at the level of the state as a unit, Eastern, Central, and Western Equatoria. So we still do have those states in place. So if you look at the idea of the conference, it was all Equatoria conference. And so it drew on the constituencies right from the county level up to the level of the state at the state assembly, for example, the state level, and as well as bringing in the national component, because it was presented as an all Equatorial conference. If I take my inspiration from that, then the different levels of representation would be accounted for, especially when we look at the constitutional context of it. And so we would ensure that there is sufficient representation for our people at the county level, at the state level, and other various levels that we consider to be appropriate and required for the processes of constitution making. We already know our constituencies, we already know our counties, but what we're looking at here is the collective of Equatoria as a whole, because Equatoria has gone through a rupture. There's a huge number of over nearly approaching 2 million Equatorians in refuge. They need to participate in that process. And in this process, we'll address the different dimensions of the process based on the kind of system that we want to have during the transitional period. For example, we're proposing the idea of autonomous regions. Equatoria would be autonomous, Upper Nile autonomous, Bahr Ghazal is autonomous. This is not new. This is drawn out of experience in Equatoria, in Upper Nile and Bahr Ghazal. Even during the time of SPLM, SPLA, they looked to administer South Sudan on the basis of the three regions. The governor of Upper Nile was Kol Manyang. The governor of Equatoria was Samuel Abujon. The governor of Bahr Ghazal was either Nial Deng or Deng Alor. So the principle was already there. It was only that the 10 states model was actually imposed by the NCP. It wasn't because the people wanted this 10 states model. So we go with the idea of Equatoria as a bloc, because this is now about the people of Equatoria. It's about their existence. It's about decisions to do with whether they want to become part of a new coexistence model. This is entirely in the hands of Equatoria. This should also be entirely in the hands of the people of Upper Nile, in the hands of the people of Bahr Ghazal. So as we approach this with the angle of looking at this as a constitutional challenge, we need to have a constituent assembly in place. Where is this constituent assembly going to come from? It's going to come from our people. There would be other things in the constitutional convention, for example, in terms of a declaration by the people of Equatoria, and also a declaration on self-determination. We want each and every region to look at that as a good thing, as an incentive to drive the model of coexistence, that we are free, we're sovereign people, sovereignty flows from the people. So Equatoria is as sovereign as Upper Nile, as sovereign as Bahr Ghazal. And it's entirely the people of Equatoria to self-determine how they want to coexist with others through the social fabric that needs to be rebuilt through the constitution making process. So that is how we look at it. There are, many, many constituencies that we have in Equatoria. There are intellectuals, there are, local council, there's a whole range of it. And I think we need to be able.
Hakim,
yeah.
Dr. Hakim, can you summarize? Because I would like to apologize also for the viewers and everyone that I cannot carry on the discussion. Yeah. I have been attacked by this video very bad. And it seems like let's make it short so that, please.
I think
I'm finished with this video.
So this thing is not tribal, my brother Warele. When the Equatoria conferences took place in Equatoria in 2011, 12, and 13, there was nothing tribal about it. We do have a social fabric as Equatoria, and we know how to go about this business. So I don't see any challenges in that regard. What's important is the ability and the process of electing representatives to a constituent assembly, electing representatives to executive organs and legislative organs at the state level as well as the national level. So if we take the model, the three regions model, the autonomous approach, autonomous regions approach, that can be resolved. So I think I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Sister if we can do a favor, please, if somebody can summarize his question, so that we can end. And like I promised all the South Sudanese, they have to see what the government is doing. I have to play, but please, let's make it short. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, President. Can you close the mic, please? Okay, thank you. Take it easy. Sister Alma, Dr. Alma, I'll go ahead and pass the mic to you, and I'll give you 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Pam, and I'd like to thank everybody who is here and the people who have spoken. I'd like to give special thanks to, Dr. Hakim and all the admin who have been, directing this room. So for me, I just want to put some few points. I know that the time is short and so on. So what I wanted to say is that the government of South Sudan is holding us all hostage. We are now hostage. Whatever we do, we can scream, we can fight, we can do whatever, but we are held hostage by this government. And we have seen how they have actually, physically held us hostage by, giving sort of like giving this power to the surrounding countries to do what they have done to the people of Unity State. The people who have been executed just, yesterday, I think. I wasn't aware of all these things, but it's really shaky. This has been happening all the time. In Uganda, our people have been handed over by the government of Uganda to Juba to be executed. People from Kenya, we have seen, and so on. So this is not new. And that means that the opposition has got no leverage, because all the surrounding countries now, including even Congo recently, and of course, Chad and all these places, they're all against the people of South Sudan. They are working with the government. So we have no power. The power have been taken completely away from our hands. We can see that. So in order to reverse, or in order to stop this government from prolonging its lifespan for another 24 months, which is a long time, that means that we have got to physically take power from them. And to do that, we can either take it, like our neighbors in Sudan, by doing a popular demonstration and doing it that way. But our country is different. As they said, they have got no rubber bullets. They will use live, bullets, and they will kill people. So we know exactly how they're going to operate. And people will just die, and nothing will be achieved. The other thing is that the country can go into trusteeship, which is the only way maybe forward, and which will be a catastrophe to us. But we have got also an avenue, which is for our opposition to join hands together, because this is now the sticking point. The opposition are never together. They are all, all the opposition have got different ideas. They don't want to come together. We have tried. I personally tried with some of the opposition to bring them together. And you can see it's like hitting your head against the wall. So the only way forward for me, as I see it, is for the opposition to come together. And we can talk on and on about doing it like that, bringing technocrats, a round table, etc., etc. But if the opposition are divided among themselves. They are squabbling over little things, not thinking about the people who are being killed, who are being burned, and all these horrible, horrible things. What are we going to do? So Dr. Hakim has spoken at length, and he spoke about every different aspect and very clearly. So I have got this question to him. My question is, what would you like to see as steps for the opposition to unite? And I mean all the opposition, all the political parties, everybody, you know, who think of himself as opposition, even those inside Juba there, inside the government. This is one question. And I have got also another question, which is, do you have an alternate solution to a roundtable conference, just to think outside the box? Thank you.
Yeah. So, Dr. Hakim, you had two questions, and I think there is one question you already answered it before, but if you can summarize it about the issue of the roundtable and the alternative, I think that was be done. We spoke about it. Maybe our sister came late, Dr. Alma, or she didn't get it very clear. Then if you can summarize on that issue, it will be good. And also, we promise all the South Sudanese that we will bring Dr. Hakim Dario again and come with his colleagues, with his brothers, those who are from the other movement. They can come together and discuss also, so that they can bring their ideas together about the issue of the round table and the differences, where they can see different opinions, but in the end of the day, to find a solution to South Sudan. So, Dr., I will let you to just try. Make your the way how you can summarize it will be good for us, and so that we can end here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mujazib, and thank you, Dr. Alma, for those important two questions. The first question is about on the unity of the opposition. What would be the steps for moving this agenda forward? I think we do have a proposal. I remember when we presented to a conference in Manchester University in 2021, October, in a program, Sudan Peace Program. We presented a proposal there. We thought first and more importantly, for our constituency to rally behind a people-based approach, so that we can speak with the voice of the people, not speak individually, not speak as different political groups. This is, of course, no negation to the idea that still the opposition could come together. And this idea was that in the broader and bigger scheme of things, we need to have clarity about what binds the opposition together and what it is that we can actually stand together on. And the fundamental basis of this is what I call democracy, the will of the people, the process of the will of the people, and then the action by all of these stakeholders to ensure that we support and ensure that our people enjoy their democratic right. So the struggle should be about democracy. The struggle should be about putting the rights of our people first. Not the rights of the individual political organizations, but the rights of the people first. And that was why we took this approach of making Equatorial People's Declaration and Charter of Rights. So it is feasible and possible that as an opposition, we could say we rally behind the agenda of democracy, so that when we come together, we can have a model that we present to the country as an alternative. And right now, for example, opposition groups can put themselves together, but there's no message. There's no clear message from the opposition as to what they want the country to hear. We want the country to hear that they stand for democracy. There's no any other force from anywhere else that can ensure that there is a process of will for people. So, and we have put together a model of this. For example, we have talked about the national, or rather the new Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Action, sometimes referred to as NADAFA. And NADAFA is not really about me or about individuals and so on, but it's about putting the two-sided coin. On the one side is the democratic will of our people. Our people not enjoy participation in decision making. So on the other side, we as the opposition, we should be taking the action to fulfill the expectations of our people. Those are the only two things that we can rally really the whole of opposition together to talk about democratic principles, democratic rights of our people. And that is how I propose it. So this proposal is still on the table. We can talk about it some other time. This is how we can bring the opposition together. But this is not to be imposed. We're just articulating an idea. For example, these groups, they come and go and they form themselves into either opposition group. But the opposition is not about opposition for the sake of opposition. It's about what is the opposition, what does the opposition stand for? You have to be very clear about that. That's what the people want to hear, that the opposition stands for democracy. This is the simple message that I can say on this. So there is an agenda and a proposal that we have. We can discuss that. So we have a proposal, a very specific proposal on this. May not have chance to elaborate more on this, but this is how we trying to articulate it through the idea of Nadafa. The simple word of it is clean the country, get to the basics, and so on. Kullana, we can accept Nadafa for our country, right? We can accept to clean our country from the mess that it is in. But there's a bigger message from it in which we can connect with our people. That's what I can say. The other point about what's the alternative? Yani, all this failing, what is the alternative? This is an important question. And I think in as far as the alternative is concerned, Equatoria is not faring any better than other regions. But I think if we have to take a people-based approach, Equatoria has to protect itself because it's at a disadvantage. It's facing an existential threat. So it has to take its own security in its own hands. If it means that, there has to be a fight against this regime in Juba, so be it. We have to protect and preserve the rights of the people of Equatoria to existence because there's no state, and Equatoria would have to form a state of its own because it's only within a state that we can preserve your rights as a people. Now, we are supposed to be preserving our rights by the current state, but this current state does not preserve our rights. So what is left for Equatorians is to self-determine their future, to create a state for themselves, to preserve themselves. And if going through means like having a trusteeship so that we can save ourselves from the onslaught and massacres and extinction, so be it. People have to protect and preserve their rights first, because the state, a legitimate state, does not exist which can preserve our rights. So the alternative would be for Equatoria to go its own way. There are other mechanisms that we can follow on that as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Hakim Dario. And I will just, before to give chance for those who are in the clubhouse to say only some words, I would like to assure the South Sudanese that tomorrow we will have a discussion, and also it will be the way forward, and the conflicts that what we have in South Sudan, and a lot of things. Anyway, tomorrow you are most welcome to come and join us. In South Sudan is not a cup of tea. Of course, South Sudan is not a cup of tea the way how we see the governor of Unity State, Joseph Mutwil, order by, I don't know what kind of law, he ordered that, those guys have been killed in the way how it is. Even in the military, حتى الناس العساكر يا جماعه ده ما الطريقه اللي قاعدين يعملوا به في قانون معين يستخدم حتى بعد ذاك عمليه ضرب القوات هذه. But this kind of action, we can categorize it, or the international community, they should really look to it. This is a crime, or we call it war crimes. It's a war crime because a soldier, if these guys are soldiers that are being catch, and even they're not being catch by the South Sudan military, they've been catch by Sudan military, and they have been given to South Sudan, and those people that are alive. And then from there they did what they did, and the video can show up, And I think this is a very serious matter where we see direct in the video. And some of our brothers also have been handled from the rest of, from the neighboring countries. We didn't see how they killed them, but this one, according to me, South Sudanese, they should not really stay and close their mouths or shut their mouths. South Sudanese, they should really act about what the governor of Unity State, Joseph Matwil, did. This is really a crimes against human right, and also we can put it as a crime or war crimes. War crimes. So, Sister Pam, I will give you a chance to say some words, and then Sabata, and then I will play this video, and I'm still saying the video is horrible. If you cannot handle, please just go out from the Facebook, and also on the Clubhouse, you can only hear the bullets that have been shot for those guys. So this is what I can say. For me, it was a shock, but I tried to handle it a little bit, but still. Anyway, Sister Pam, I give you a chance, and Sabata, please, and then we have to come to the conclusion tonight, and with this bad news where we see it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Brother Mujasef. I wanted to give special thanks to Dr. Hakim for coming today, and so Voice of Kush Wisdom, and for answering all the questions and all the valuable information that you have given. I also want to thank all the audience for coming and sharing the platform with us today. Everyone that came up and asked questions, gave comments, Brother Dominic, Dictora Alma, Mohandis Warile, Shukran Letakon, and Brother Sabata. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to you, Brother Sabata.
Thank you, Sister Pam. أنا برضه عايز أشكر أخونا دكتور حكيم. برضه thank you إدارة بتاعت Kush Wisdom for letting us have this beautiful show with brother Dr. Hakim Dario. وبعدين أنا عايز أشكر هؤلاء الجماعة اللي في الأودينس هناك الجو عشان يكتبوا في الانترفيو. انتوا شجعتونا شديد خالص، يعني كان ما حضور بتاعكم ذاته، يعني ما عايزينه هنكون عندنا المورال عشان نقعد الفترة دي كلها. شكرا شديد لكم. Good night and good morning and wherever you are, have a good day. Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Brother Sabata. Brother Mujasef, I'll pass the mic back to you to play that video before we end the show.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Pam, Brother Sabata, Warile.
Brother Mujasef, if you're speaking, your mic is off, so we cannot hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Pam, and also Brother Sabata, and Mohandis Warile, Mohandis Dominic, Dictora Alma, and I don't know who came after also. I just forget because I'm a little bit now not in that mood where I should to do always my things, but that's how life it is. But the time will come for these people. The kullu shay waqt. Anyway, South Sudanese, here we are. I would like to send again the message to all the families, those who are watching the Voice of Kush Wisdom. Be careful. Take the kids outside from the platform screen. We had a video that have been ordered by the governor of Unity State, Joseph Matwil, by squaring fire to the group that have been arrested by the Sudan military and did handle to him, and then the way how he killed them, it is horrible. If you cannot, just be far, please. And I will repeat again, South Sudanese, I will be responsible for this video, and I will face the law if I am against anything else. So this is what I can do now. I will play the video up here. Just, I know it is horrible, but yeah, I know it's a very horrible video. Yeah. For those who are in the clubhouse, you can just only hear the bullets and so on. This is how they are killing South Sudanese. This is the way how our government, they kill the South Sudanese, what they are calling for. Before they said that, they liberate them. You see, I will play it again. I will play it again for all the South Sudanese to see what is going on. But it seemed yeah, I know. I will play it again. We are not going to leave them just like this, these people. The time will come for them, believe me. Someone vigilant us there. Try again. Dr. Hakim Dario, I'm sorry, but anyway, that's how it is. Yeah. I think the Facebook refused to play it. Yeah. So I played somehow, but I think now I have an strict order to do so. But I will try again to send a message so that I have right to play it, because I have my license to do so in the media. Why they are blocking not to do it? But anyway, we'll try to make a show to talk about these Pacific crimes, and then we'll see how we can do next time. So thank you very much, brothers and sisters, and all the South Sudanese, those who came, and hopefully we are trying to make the show in another way, but we get this news, and also this news, we don't let it for ourselves, but we have to send it to the South Sudanese to know what is going on in the country. Dr. Hakim, that's why we played. It was not in our plan, but as a media, we have to show what is going on. So yeah, I don't know if you have something to add on this. You can go for it, and then we end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mujazif, for the courage to present this graphic murder, atrocity being committed in broad daylight against political opponents in this way. People who have been killed are not members of the government. They have not committed any crimes within their own ranks of the government in order to be subjected to this kind of killing. But this is not new in the SPLM. I read a book recently by Carol Berger. It's called Africa's Red Army, and the process of routinized violence in the SPLA. It traces the origins of the SPLA and how violence was being normalized in the SPLA. The SPLA has not changed. So violence continues to be normalized even after we have become an independent country. There is conscription, forced conscription of communities in the Dinka areas to join the SSPDF. And those who are serving in SSPDF are simply taking killings like this as normal. And this was the subject of the book that was saying this routinized violence in South Sudan is accepted as a new normal. It is acceptable for people and for the government in South Sudan to use violence. This is exactly the illustration. This is exact illustration of what the book was talking about. That the militarized state, South Sudan is a militarized state. So you can see that evidence now here today. It is a militarized state. It doesn't follow the rule of law. is a militarized SPLA. It hasn't changed. There is no national army, and therefore there is no rule of law that applies to a national army. What you see is what you get, routinized violence. And that's what we have to, and it is creating a new reality on the ground. This is the reality that violence creates. The violence of the state against its own people, the violence of the state against communities, and the lack of democratic space. It's almost like we have to go through another phase of liberation from these violent, institutions of the SPLA. So it's a rebel movement operating on the same principles of human rights abuses that, brought the SPLA into disrepute. There were many, many organizations, human rights organizations, Human Rights Watch in particular, that published and challenged, even at the time when Garang was still alive, they challenged the SPLA's routinized violence against innocent civilians, and also the way they were conscripting forcibly youth to become the Red Army. And how many of this Red Army have perished because of the use of violence. Makambia someone with a discipline. It's not discipline. Is that discipline? Does it follow any rule of law? Does it follow even the military code of behavior? Why should they be executed in the public and even burned after that? Where do you get this from? This is the SPLA that hasn't changed. And if they are able to execute these orders and to kill people with impunity like that, they're committing crimes, war crimes, against those individuals that they caught. And South Sudan is complicit in this for vested financial interests, vested political interests with the regime in Juba. They are one and the same. That's what we're facing. And I think this should give us inspiration to have nothing to do with this regime. We should all reject it. From all our shades of opinion, we should reject this regime and find a way to get it out of the system, out of the country. Thank you, Mujazif.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity, and I want to thank all of your viewers and all of those who have asked questions. We have been pressed for time, but nonetheless, really appreciate your time and effort to bring this subject today and to really enlighten our people and share the experiences. This is a live account of abuses and human rights, gross violations of human rights and war crimes. And I agree with the statements that you have made on this. So thank you for giving me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Hakim Dario. I would like to thank all the viewers of the Voice of Kush Wisdom and the moderators, Sister Pam, and also Brother Sabata. And I would like to send this message for the committee of the rally. This video should be one of the videos that should be presented to the United Nations Assembly, General Assembly in New York. And also this video should be presented on the process of that day of the rally in New York as well. And I think this is one of the things that where it should be put it as a war crime, like what Dr. Hakim mentioned, and it is horrible. And we'll have a video for it. I mean, a show for it, and then we will discuss. And also, there is a video also about the acting governor, I mean, mayor, I think, because I don't like to hear about that guy at all. He was telling the youth and the South Sudanese, those who are in Juba, we don't have any bullet. We can, shut you down in the way. I mean, we don't have sticks or something like that, and we don't have bumbola shatta. Kalam al-duel gul lakin galin dana talga ya tawali bishtaul izol batla barra fi shari. Video na borno mawjud, and hopefully we are always saving all these videos. Unless if one day that we are not here, they find us also in the way how they are, but the South Sudanese, they will get in the contact of the voice of Kush or with our teams, that the video always will be in the computer in any time that they will search and they will find it one day. So nothing be lost. If I will not be, but every evidence that we have it in our computer is here. So thank you very much for this time, and God bless you, and God bless South Sudan. And I don't know what to say more. It is very sad day, but that's how it is. So Sister Pam, thank you, and Brother Sabata and the rest of the South Sudanese. And Dr. Hakim, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is Mujazib Sabit Lanti, مقدم برنامج Voice of Kush Wisdom. كونوا دائما في أمان الله. مع السلامة.